Chapter 649. Yunyao sat on the seat of honor and watched Ansuwen's departing figure. Her brows were tightly furrowed, and her eyes were filled with anger. Early in the morning, Ansuwen came to Yunyao Palace to look for her and scolded her to her face. She even gave her a warning. However, she didn't do anything and never had any private interactions with Long Yunxiao. Ansuwen's words were completely baffling to her, and she felt incomparably wronged. What the hell was this? Yunyao was so angry that she couldn't breathe properly. She sat on the throne for a long time before she finally calmed down. 15 minutes later, she suppressed her anger. Her expression and temperament returned to normal, and she became as cold as ice again. She stood up and walked out of the main hall, about to leave Yunyao Palace. When she walked out of the main hall, she happened to meet the female official, Lan Huixin. Lan Huixin saw that her aura was cold and her expression was indifferent. She quickly went up to her and asked with concern, "Big Sister Yun, what happened? Where are you going?" Yunyao glanced at her and said calmly, "It's nothing. I'm going to Tianqing Palace to discuss some important matters with Imperial Prince Tianqing. No matter who comes to visit today, they will all be rejected." After saying that, she rode her spirit crane into the sky and rushed towards Tianqing Palace. Lan Huixin stood at the entrance of the main hall and watched the spirit crane fly into the distance. Her lips curled into a sneer. Humph. After being scolded by that silly woman Ansuwen, you're going to complain to Ji Tianqing with a heart full of grievances? I'd like to see if Ansuwen can still keep her position as heavenly consort after the three of you make a fuss. When Yunyao arrived at Tianqing Palace, it was already close to noon. The guards guarding Tianqing Palace's entrance were very familiar with her. When they saw her, they immediately opened the door to welcome her. The guards led Yunyao into Tianqing Palace. They didn't go to the reception hall and went straight to Ji Tianqing's study. Not long after Yunyao waited in the study, Ji Tianqing rushed over after hearing the news. When Ji Tianqing stepped into the study, Yunyao's eyes stared at him. She carefully sized him up and immediately revealed a look of surprise. Although Ji Tianqing was dressed as usual, wearing a white robe with cloud patterns and a clear jade belt around his waist, he appeared to be in high spirits and extraordinarily handsome. However, Yunyao could clearly feel that Ji Tianqing's aura had become even more domineering and fierce. It seemed that his power had improved again. At this moment, Ji Tianqing walked over and sat down in front of her. He smiled and asked, "Yao Yao, what are you looking at? It's only been a few days and you don't recognize me anymore." Yunyao ignored his teasing and asked seriously, "Tianqing, I haven't seen you for a few days. It seems that your cultivation has made a breakthrough again." Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "That's right. On my way back from Azure Wood City, I was ambushed by 2 Devil King powerhouses. After I came back, I went into seclusion to cultivate. After 6 days and 6 nights of seclusion, I finally broke through to the 4th level of Sky Origin stage." Hearing this, Yunyao was shocked. She praised with a complicated tone, "It's only been 2 months since you broke through to the 3rd level of Sky Origin stage. Tianqing, the speed of your growth is really unprecedented in the past and will never be surpassed." Although Ji Tianqing accidentally created another miracle, which made his sweetheart shocked and praised him, he wasn't arrogant. However, he wasn't arrogant and complacent. He calmly explained, "Yao Yao, you know how powerful the Sword God is. I have the bloodline of Kenshin, so my cultivation speed is much faster than ordinary geniuses. For me, there is no bottleneck from the 1st level to the 9th level. It's a smooth journey. Only when I break through a level, I will encounter a bottleneck and spend more time." Luckily, Yunyao and Ji Tianqing had known each other for a long time. She had seen him turn from a useless young master to a peerless genius. She was shocked by Ji Tianqing too many times. She had gradually gotten used to his monstrous talent and the miracles he created. The two chatted for a while. Ji Tianqing asked seriously, "Yao Yao, why did you come to see me?" Yun Yao said seriously, this morning, someone from the Hidden Cloud Pavilion reported to me that they found out about the Duanmu clan. I don't know what happened to the Duanmu clan. The First Lady couldn't bear the pain of losing her son. She suddenly lost her mind and stabbed Duanmu Huang. She was locked up in the clan's forbidden area. The position of the First Lady of the Duanmu clan is vacant. The clan has been in a bit of chaos recently. It's not peaceful. When Ji Tianqing heard the news, he was stunned for a moment before he revealed a playful smile. Duanmu Yulong has been dead for 3 months. If the First Lady couldn't bear the pain of losing her son, she would have gone crazy long ago. How could she only go crazy now? It seems that the Duanmu clan has started to fight among themselves. The First Lady obviously lost. Yun Yao nodded and said, that's right. The more they fight among themselves, the more advantageous it is for us. The internal strife will gradually weaken the Duanmu clan's power. It will also make Duanmu Huang busy and unable to deal with our plan. Ji Tianqing pondered for a moment. Then, he said seriously, let's wait and see. Let them fight among themselves. Yao Yao, tell the Hidden Cloud Pavilion to keep an eye on the Duanmu clan. If there's any news, tell me as soon as possible. As for the next plan, we'll act according to the situation. The two had just finished discussing business when hurried footsteps were heard outside the study. Then, Ji Ku's voice sounded outside the door. Big brother Tianqing, something bad has happened. Ji Tianqing frowned. He waved his hand and released a golden light to open the door. Ji Ku rushed into the study anxiously and quickly said, Big brother Tianqing, Yan is missing. Hearing this news, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's expressions changed, and they stood up. Yan is missing. What's going on? Where did he go? When did he go missing? Ji Ku quickly explained, yesterday morning, junior brother Yan went to Zhongzhou City to contact the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's people and send them information as usual. He should have come back last night, but he hasn't come back yet. I contacted Steward Li of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion, but Steward Li said that Yan didn't go to receive any information yesterday. Upon hearing this, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao immediately understood that something must have happened to Yan The two of them walked out of the study without hesitation and quickly rushed outside. Ji Ku quickly followed and wanted to look for Yan with them. However, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and told her, Ku, Ao Yao and I will go to Zhongzhou City to look for Yan You stay in Tianqing Palace and don't leave. Wait for our news. Ji Ku had no choice but to stay in Tianqing Palace. She said worriedly, Big brother Tianqing, you must be careful. Don't let anything happen to you. Ji Tianqing nodded and summoned Qian Yu from the 100 Treasures brocade pouch. He and Yun Yao rode Qian Yu out of Tianqing Palace and rushed to the exit of the Monarch Mansion. After the two of them left the Monarch Mansion and entered Zhongzhou City, they first rushed to the branch of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion and asked Steward Li about the specific situation. Chapter 650. The Hidden Cloud Pavilion was an intelligence organization nurtured by the Yun family. It was best at gathering information, investigating clues, and assassinating. The Yun family had set up 3 branches of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion in Zhongzhou City, with more than 300 secret agents stationed there. Deacon Li was in charge of the Southern City branch, with more than 100 secret agents working under him. After receiving Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's orders, Deacon Li immediately sent half of his men to investigate in the city. In everyone's eyes, Yan Er's route from the Monarch Mansion to the Southern City branch was fixed. Moreover, Yan had important matters to attend to, so he wouldn't wander around the city. He went missing on the way to the Southern City branch, narrowing the scope of the investigation. They should be able to find him soon. Deacon Li saw that Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were full of worries, so he comforted them. Eldest Miss, young Master Ji, please rest assured. The secret agents will definitely be able to find the news in 12 hours at most. Please don't be impatient and wait patiently for a while. Ji Tianqing nodded and asked Deacon Li to withdraw for the time being. He and Yun Yao stayed in the secret chamber, quietly waiting for the results. Time passed by quietly and 12 hours passed quickly. However, the secret agents hadn't found the result yet. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao both realized that the situation was not good. Yan Er's disappearance was probably very complicated. Yun Yao called Deacon Li and asked him about the situation. Deacon Li's expression was a bit solemn and he said in a low and deep voice, "Eldest miss, this matter is very complicated. The other party did it very covertly and their methods are very clever. According to this subordinate's estimation, the other party is most likely an assassin who is proficient in ambushes and assassinations, and it was premeditated long ago." Hearing his words, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and asked, "Deacon Li, in that case, you can conclude that Yan was kidnapped by the assassin?" Deacon Li quickly nodded and said, "That's right. Those assassins are not weak and their methods are very ingenious. Even with the strength of our hidden cloud pavilion, it's difficult to find the result in a short time." Yun Yao frowned and muttered to herself, "There are only a few assassin organizations that can be compared to the hidden cloud pavilion. Who could have done it?" She and Ji Tianqing looked at each other, and a cold light flashed in their eyes. Obviously, they had guessed the result. If it wasn't done by the demon race, then it was most likely done by the Duanmu clan. Deacon Li nodded again and said, "That's right. According to the information sent back by the spies, this subordinate also thinks that the Duanmu clan is the most suspicious. Previously, we investigated that there were a few experts from the Soul Herding Hall who appeared near the Wufeng Manor and hid in the dark for 3 days. Just now, I have already ordered the spies to focus on investigating Wufeng Zhuang. I believe there will be results soon." Hearing Deacon Li's words, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao felt slightly relieved. The two of them suppressed their worries and waited patiently in the secret chamber for another 6 hours. Finally, Deacon Li rushed to the secret room again and reported the news in a hurry. "Reporting to Mr. Ji, the spies have already investigated the results. Yesterday morning, Yan was attacked near the Wufeng Manor and was captured by the experts of the Soul Herding Hall. Those experts of the Soul Herding Hall captured Yan in the Black Cloud Alley and then disappeared completely." Hearing this result, Yun Yao suddenly frowned and asked doubtfully, "Yan was captured in the Black Cloud Alley? Why did the people of the Soul Herding Hall go there?" Deacon Li shook his head with a dignified expression, "This subordinate doesn't know, but this subordinate has sent people into the underground dark city and is doing his best to investigate." When Ji Tianqing heard the two unfamiliar names Black Cloud Alley and Underground Dark City, he immediately showed a puzzled expression. "What does the Underground Dark City mean?" Yun Yao motioned Deacon Li to retreat and patiently explained to Ji Tianqing, "Tianqing, you just came to Zhongzhou City not long ago and have been busy with cultivation, so you haven't heard of the Underground Dark City. The Underground Dark City is a dark underground city hidden under the surface of Zhongzhou City. Speaking of the origin of this underground dark city, it has to be traced back to the ancient times. At that time, the demon army swept the world and almost occupied the entire continent. The demon army besieged Zhongzhou City. The experts of the human race, demon race and water race fought desperately and launched an earth-shattering war. In that earth-shattering war, more than half of Zhongzhou City was destroyed and turned into a dilapidated city. The earth in a radius of hundreds of miles turned into an abyss. The remaining half of Zhongzhou City also sank into the abyss and was swallowed by the darkness. Many years later, the demon army was defeated by the alliance of various races and retreated to the northern desert. They retreated and recuperated. The monarch mansion built this Zhongzhou City on the abyss and let Zhongzhou return to peace and tranquility." After listening to Yun Yao's explanation, Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "So that's how it is. Now under this Zhongzhou City, there is an abandoned ancient city from the ancient times. However, thousands of years have passed. Didn't that underground abandoned ancient city turn into ruins long ago?" Yunyao shook her head lightly and explained, in the ancient times, although that ancient city was not as prosperous as today's Zhongzhou city, it was still the most majestic city under the heavens. Although more than half of that ancient city was destroyed and sunk deep underground, many ancient buildings were still preserved and there were many broken formations protecting it. So far, the abandoned ancient city was still preserved. Many martial artists from all walks of life lived there, and there were also many evil people hiding there. That abandoned ancient city became a place to hide evil. It was full of darkness and murderous aura, so it was called the Underground Dark City. There are several entrances to the Underground Dark City. Black Cloud Alley is one of the entrances. Ji Tianqing roughly understood what kind of place the Underground Dark City was. He asked with a grave expression, since the Underground Dark City is so dark and violent, Yan was captured by Soul Shepherd Hall's people. His situation must be very dangerous. However, why didn't Soul Shepherd Hall's people take him back to Duanmu family's Qingmu city, but instead to the Underground Dark City? Yunyao frowned and thought for a moment. She said in a low voice, Duanmu family controls half of the medicine business in the Zhongzhou continent. Of course, their power has penetrated the Underground Dark City. I remember that Duanmu family has a shadow palace in the Underground Dark City. It specializes in selling and trading some materials and poisons that are strictly prohibited by the imperial court. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. He said in a cold voice, so, Yan is likely to be captured to the Shadow Palace. What are we waiting for? Let's enter the Underground Dark City now and go to the Shadow Palace to rescue Yan Yunyao shook her head gently and said, Tianqing, don't be impatient. Let's wait for the news from the Hidden Cloud Pavilion first. The two continued to wait. Very quickly, another 6 hours passed. So far, the two had been waiting for a whole day. Deacon Li entered the secret room again and reported respectfully, Young Master Ji, the spies have investigated clearly. Yan was indeed captured to the Underground Dark City. He was taken into a dilapidated manor and never appeared again. Chapter 651. The result of Deacon Li's report caused Ji Tianqing and Yunyao to be stunned for a moment. Yan was captured and brought into a dilapidated manor. He was actually not captured and brought to the Umbra Palace. What exactly does the Duanmu clan want to do? The two of them glanced at each other in confusion, then hurriedly stood up and left the secret room to rush towards Black Cloud Alley. Deacon Li originally wanted to send a team of spies to protect them, but Ji Tianqing refused. The spies of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion are mostly at the 7th or 8th level of the Origin Core stage, and are utterly unable to be of any help. Deacon Li, you only need to send a spy to lead the way for us. Since Ji Tianqing had spoken, Deacon Li naturally did as he was told, and sent a young spy that was astute and agile to lead the way for Ji Tianqing and Yunyao. The three of them left the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's branch and rushed towards Black Cloud Alley with their fastest speed. After an hour, the three of them arrived at Black Cloud Alley. When Ji Tianqing saw the situation in the alley clearly, he only felt disbelief. This was a dirty and old alley, and both sides of the alley were low earthen houses, tiled houses, and wooden sheds. The ground was full of potholes and was covered in muddy water. Walking in the alley, Ji Tianqing saw over 10 martial artists in ragged clothes that had disheveled hair and collapsed under the eaves of the sheds by the side of the road. There were also a few martial artists that wore tattered armor that walked out from the depths of the alley, and their footsteps were unsteady as they limped through the muddy water. They hadn't even walked close when the stench of alcohol assaulted their nostrils, causing them to raise their eyebrows. These were obviously a few drunkards. Ji Tianqing found it hard to believe that there was actually such a dirty, disorderly, and vile alley in the flourishing Central Continent city. If it wasn't for Yunyao telling him that the depths of Black Cloud Alley was the entrance to the underground city, he would truly suspect that he had entered the slums. The three of them calmly and quietly passed through the alley, and after walking for over 1,000 meters, they arrived at the end of Black Cloud Alley. Before them was a low and old house, and the dilapidated door was dyed with dark red bloodstains. There were 2 huge red lanterns hanging at the door, which were still lit with a dim yellow light. Ji Tianqing walked into the house, past the fake mountains and pond in the courtyard, and arrived at the dimly lit hall. A stooped old man in a black robe with white hair and beard silently appeared behind the 3 of them. "Young man, this is not a place you should be." A low and hoarse voice rang out. It contained an eerie ghostly aura, causing people to feel a chill down their backs. Ji Tianqing turned his head and couldn't help but frown when he saw the appearance of the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man was hunched over. His face was pale and bloodless. He was missing an eye, and there were several hideous sword wounds. His ears were also bald, as if they had been shaved off. Such a stooped old man with skin as dry as tree bark and a terrifying face looked like a mummy that had crawled out of a grave. However, Yin Yao had told Ji Tianqing that this black-robed old man was the legendary ghost servant, one of the gatekeepers of the Dark City. No one knew the ghost servant's cultivation level. He only had an eerie ghostly aura around him, which made him seem unfathomable. However, even a Sky Origin Stage 6 or 7 powerhouse wouldn't dare to act rashly in front of the ghost servant. "Senior, we have something to do in the Dark City. Please make an exception." Ji Tianqing bowed to the ghost servant. After explaining the purpose of their visit, he handed over 3 spiritual stones. The ghost servant glanced at Ji Tianqing with his empty eye and grinned with his sparse teeth. "Hee, little guy, you're quite sensible." He reached out his shriveled hand and took the 3 spiritual stones and put them into his interspatial ring. Then, he led Ji Tianqing and the other 2 out of the hall and walked into a dark secret room. On the floor of the secret room, there was an extremely complicated and mysterious array. When the ghost servant opened the array, an underground passage appeared on the ground. The entrance of the cave was dark and cold. It was obviously leading to the Dark City. Ji Tianqing, Yin Yao, and the young secret agent entered the underground passage one by one. They walked along the dark and cold passage and went underground. The passage was winding and it was unknown how far it went underground. Until 2 hours later, when a bridge appeared in front of the passage, there was some light in the surroundings. Ji Tianqing walked to the dark stone bridge and looked around. He couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. Under his feet was a black arch bridge that was hundreds of meters long. Under the bridge was a large river that was hundreds of meters wide. In the river, there was turbulent black water flowing endlessly, making a rumbling sound. Above his head was a dome that was thousands of meters high. That was the rock layer under the continent's central city. In the distance, there was an empty and dark sky. A dark red moon was floating in the sky, sprinkling down a dim light red light. The earth in the distance was very desolate. There were collapsed city walls, attics and halls, collapsed houses, and huge statues half hidden in the mud. The various scenes that he saw all showed how glorious this abandoned ancient city used to be. Ji Tianqing stood on the arch bridge and looked for a while. Then he crossed the stone bridge. Under the guidance of the young secret agent, he walked into the depths of the Dark City. Along the way, he saw the dilapidated palaces and pavilions in all directions. There were mysterious martial artists coming in and out. Most people acted alone, wearing a wide robe and a cloak that covered their face, hiding their true face. Even if they didn't wear a cloak, they would wear a mask. Everyone was in a hurry and never talked to strangers. Inside those ruined buildings, there were many places for people to trade and sell their wares. While hurrying, Yin Yao said to Ji Tianqing with spiritual sense sound transmission, "Tianqing, although the Dark City is gloomy and terrible, full of darkness and violence, there are many experts here. It can be said that there are crouching tigers and hidden dragons. You have to be careful here. Although it is full of a large number of evil and vicious things that are strictly prohibited from circulating, there are also many rare treasures. Some rare treasures often appear. The experts of the major forces in Zhongzhou City will also change their appearance and quietly come here to fish for treasures, or to buy rare materials and so on. On the way, Yunyao introduced the Dark City to Ji Tianxing in detail. Ji Tianxing remembered her words, thinking that it might be useful in the future. Half an hour later, the young secret agent took the two of them to the outside of an ancient and dilapidated manor. This manor covered an area of 2,000 meters. It should have been a magnificent, noble and illustrious mansion. However, the war in ancient times caused half of the mansion to collapse. Many houses and palaces had collapsed, turning into mud and gravel on the ground, revealing pieces of broken fences and walls. The ground paved with black slabs was cracked with numerous gullies, and many piles of gravel were scattered. The whole manor was silent and dark. There was no light at all, like a lifeless dead land. Chapter 652. Ji Tianxing and Yunyao were hiding in a dark corner outside the manor. The three of them secretly observed for a while. The manor was still dead silent, and there was no trace of light or shadow. Ji Tianxing was worried about Yan Er's safety, so he decided to take action. He instructed the young secret agent, "You stay here and keep a lookout outside the manor. Be ready to help us at any time." The young secret agent cupped his hands and bowed. He used his spiritual sense to send a voice transmission. After that, Ji Tianxing and Yunyao restrained their auras and quietly sneaked into the dilapidated manor. They moved towards the depths of the manor. Both of their movements were light and cautious. They did not make any sound. After 15 minutes, both of them passed through the ruins and arrived at the depths of the manor. They arrived outside a huge black palace. This palace was the main hall of the manor. Although the walls were covered with cracks, the entire palace was slightly tilted and looked like it was about to collapse. However, Ji Tianxing detected that this palace was protected by the Heaven Origin Grand Formation, and there were martial artists' auras in the palace. Not only that, but there were also 3 gloomy and dark true origin fluctuations hidden in a few old houses at the back of the palace. Ji Tianxing turned his head to look at Yunyao and sent a voice transmission. "Yao Yao, there are 4 hidden sentries at the back of the palace. However, they are only at the 8th level of the origin core stage. There's nothing to worry about. Wait for me here for a moment. I'll go and deal with them first before I can break the palace's defensive grand formation." Yunyao nodded and sent a voice transmission. "Tianxing, be careful." Ji Tianxing nodded silently. His figure flashed and flew out. After 2 breaths of time, he moved to the back of the palace and was near a few houses in the ruins. When he got closer, he used his spiritual sense to scan clearly. There were a total of 5 houses that were relatively well preserved, and 4 of them were occupied. The 4 martial artists were wearing black robes. There were soft armor and heart protection mirrors under their robes. They also carried treasured swords, concealed weapons, and crossbows. They were fully equipped. Moreover, the robes of these 4 people were embroidered with the same pattern. Their auras were similarly gloomy and contained the smell of blood. Even though the 4 of them were meditating in the room, they were still on guard at all times. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing frowned slightly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He thought to himself, "Looks like these 4 fellows are the assassins of the Soul Shepherd Hall, the ones who captured Yan Er." Relying on his strength, killing 4 8th-level origin core stage experts was simply easy. However, it was very difficult to do it without alerting the experts and powerhouses in the palace. Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment and immediately had an idea. Earth Emperor Shield. He muttered in his heart and quietly used his Earth Elemental True Essence to burrow into the ground. He controlled the power of Earth True Essence and quietly moved underground without any hindrance. He was like a fish swimming in water. In a short span of 10 breaths, he swam 100 meters underground and came to the ground of a house. The sole shepherd hall assassin in the house was still meditating on the bed and didn't notice the approaching danger in the slightest. In the next moment, Ji Tianqing emerged from the wall behind the assassin. He appeared soundlessly like a ghost. At this moment, he was only a step away from the sole shepherd hall assassin. He stretched out his right hand like lightning and grabbed towards the assassin's neck. Crack! Along with the sound of bones shattering, this assassin's neck was instantly broken by Ji Tianqing, and he died on the spot. Until the moment of his death, he still didn't understand what had happened. The assassin's body slowly fell down onto the bed without a sound. Blood was still flowing out from his mouth and nose. And at this moment, Ji Tianqing had already left silently. He moved another 20 steps underground and entered the next room. The black-robed assassin in this room faintly heard a light sound and revealed a puzzled expression. He had just opened his eyes. However, he didn't realize that a person had appeared out of thin air from the dark brown wall behind him. Crack! Another sound of bones shattering was heard. This assassin's neck was also broken by Ji Tianqing. He didn't even have time to scream before he died on the spot. Then, Ji Tianqing sneaked into the third and fourth rooms and assassinated the remaining 2 assassins. Although the 2 assassins were alert, they didn't know what had happened. Before they could react, Ji Tianqing appeared like a ghost and silently took their lives. Ji Tianqing easily took care of the 4 assassins from the Hall of Soul Husbandry without making too much noise. He quietly left the house and returned to Yunyao's side. Yunyao quickly asked via voice transmission, "Tianqing, have you taken care of them?" Ji Tianqing nodded and replied via voice transmission, "Yes, all 4 Soul Shepherd Hall assassins have been killed." Then, he took Yunyao and sneaked into the ruins on the side of the palace. He observed the defensive formation silently and thought of a way to break it. After observing for a while, he frowned doubtfully and thought to himself, the defensive formation of this palace isn't a remnant formation from the ancient times. It was set up in recent years. Strange, this is just an ordinary low-grade heaven origin formation. Could it be that the experts in this palace have very ordinary attainments in formations? Ji Tianqing was puzzled and raised his vigilance. He explained the situation to Yunyao. Then, he performed a secret formation technique and started to break the formation. The low-grade heaven origin formation was very easy for a formation grandmaster like him. It wasn't even worth mentioning. In just a few minutes, he broke a hole in the defensive formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ji Tianqing and Yunyao went through the hole in the formation and entered the defensive formation. Although the palace had a black iron gate, they didn't go through the gate. They went through the window of one of the rooms on the first floor and directly entered the palace. The interior of the palace was dilapidated and very old. It was full of cracks and piles of gravel and debris. The air was filled with a damp and rotten smell. It was nauseating. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao both had the strength of heaven origin stage. They held their breath and quickly shuttled through the palace, searching for traces of yen, Both of them released their spirit senses to explore the situation around. They didn't miss any room or secret room, even the underground. Not long after, they searched the entire first floor of the palace but found nothing. They just went up to the second floor of the palace and entered a spacious hall. They were about to use their spirit senses to search. At this time, Ji Tianqing suddenly saw 4 statues standing in the 4 dark corners of the hall. Each statue was more than 3 meters tall. They were dark brown all over and the carvings were lifelike. They didn't look like remnants from the ancient times. In terms of appearance, the 4 statues were all of the demon clan. Half of them were like humans and the other half were like eagles. Ji Tianqing stepped toward one of the statues and prepared to observe it closely. However, the statue suddenly moved and opened its eyes, revealing a pair of dark golden bright eyes. Chapter 653. Ji Tianqing saw that the black stone on the surface of the statue was cracking and falling to the floor. In just a few breaths, the statue completely shattered, revealing a 3-meter-tall harpy with a robust and powerful body. This demon had the head of a human and the body of an eagle. It had the wings and sharp claws of an eagle, but it also had a pair of arms similar to that of a human. It stared down at Ji Tianqing with an evil sneer in its golden eyes. "Human kid, how dare you break into the Wandering Soul's fortress and disturb our sleep? You are courting death." The harpies opened their sharp beaks and spoke the human language with a strange accent. At the same time, the other 3 statues in the corner of the hall cracked and showed 3 harpies with the same fierce vibes. The 4 harpies stared at Ji Tianqing and Yunyao coldly, slowly approaching the center of the hall. Yunyao was holding the cold moon sword, standing side by side with Ji Tianqing, looking around alertly. "Tianqing, this is the golden-eye winged man. It is fast and powerful. It is good at fighting. It is said that this race was wiped out 1,000 years ago. There are only a few golden-eye winged men left. I didn't expect to see 4 of them here." "Golden-eye winged men?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and casually said, "They are just 4 Sky Origin Stage Level 2 beasts. What is there to be afraid of?" He coldly stared at the golden-eye winged man and asked, 2 days ago, did the Hall of Soul Husbandry catch a human boy and keep him here?" The golden-eye winged man showed a mocking look. "Kid, what is the Hall of Soul Husbandry? I have never heard of it. As for the human boy, I have eaten him long ago. He was delicious. Since you 2 are here, I am going to have a good meal today. TSK, TSK. Although Ji Tianqing could tell that the golden-eyed winged being was lying, he was still enraged. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. "You are courting death." Ji Tianqing shouted and suddenly waved his hand to shoot out a fiery sword light toward the golden-eye winged man, Red Dragon Flash. The 10-meter-long fiery sword light lit up the spacious hall like a fiery dragon. It was about to hit the golden-eye winged man. The golden-eye winged man's pupils shrank. His body was covered with golden light, and he quickly dodged aside. However, no matter how fast he was not as fast as Ji Tianqing's Red Dragon Flash. Bang! With a muffled sound, Crimson Dragon Flash pierced through the chest of the golden-eyed winged man, shattering his heart and internal organs. Its 3-meter-tall body exploded into pieces of flesh and blood, scattering in the corner of the hall. Suddenly, the air smelled blood of the golden eye. The other 3 golden-eyed winged beings were smirking coldly, thinking about how to torture Ji Tianqing and Yunyao. Suddenly, they saw that their companion had been killed by a sword strike. The 3 of them were stunned, and their golden eyes were filled with horror. Seizing the opportunity, Ji Tianqing used the Golden Emperor Slash and charged toward the other golden-eyed winged man with unparalleled ferocity. Yunyao also waved her cold moon sword and used the Heavenly Star 5 swords. She slashed out 5 huge sword lights and attacked the golden-eye winged man on the left. The 3 golden-eye winged men finally came back to their senses and roared angrily. They flapped their wings and used a secret technique. They shot out sharp blades of light and shadow to block the attacks of the 2 people. The saber lights and sword shadows of the 2 sides clashed fiercely, creating a loud rumbling sound that reverberated in the hall. An incomparably violent shockwave fiercely struck the hall, causing huge cracks to appear on the ground and walls. The entire palace also shook violently. Ji Tianqing's golden eye slash was unstoppable. It cut through all obstacles and hit a golden-eye winged man. That golden-eye winged man was cut in half by the giant sword. His body and blood scattered on the ground. The remaining 2 golden-eye winged men were scared out of their wits by Ji Tianqing's power. They attacked twice symbolically and then retreated in a hurry. They wanted to escape from the hall. However, Ji Tianqing was determined to kill them. How could he let them escape? Water split. He released a huge sword light that was more than 10 meters long and killed a golden-eye winged man on the spot. He also smashed the entire wall of the hall. Yunyao also used the moonlight essence. She slashed out a crescent-shaped light blade and killed another golden-eye winged man on the spot. In the blink of an eye, all 4 golden-eye winged men were killed. The hall was also torn apart. The whole palace was on the verge of collapse. Huge rocks kept falling down. These 4 golden-eye winged men are only guards. There's an even stronger mastermind behind them. They've surely been alarmed now. We have to make the best use of our time and search separately now so as to avoid any mishaps happening to Yen. Ji Tianqing was anxious in his heart and instructed Yunyao via voice transmission. The 2 of them hurriedly left the damaged hall and moved swiftly like a gust of wind on the 2nd floor of the palace as they released their spiritual sense to search for Yen Er's whereabouts. The 2 of them acted separately and spent 100 breaths of time to search all the 100+ rooms on the 2nd floor of the palace. However, they were unable to find Yen Er. Thus, the 2 of them hurriedly rushed up to the 3rd floor of the palace. This floor was obviously a secret place of the palace. There were only a mere 10+ rooms and 2 secret rooms. Every room and secret room was extremely spacious. Moreover, a defensive grand formation was set up, and there were even a few human martial artists acting as guards. However, those human martial artists only had a strength at the 8th or 9th level of the origin core stage. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao used some tricks and only used 3 to 5 moves to instantly kill the guards. After they killed all the guards, the 2 of them hurriedly started searching. The defensive grand formations of the various rooms and secret rooms were capable of obstructing the detection of spiritual sense, causing their searching speed to become extremely slow. Right when the 2 of them were patiently breaking open the formation, Ji Tianqing suddenly sensed that a gloomy and obscure formidable aura was silently fleeing the palace and flying towards the outside. Want to flee? His brows raised as he emitted a cold shout, and then his figure flashed out of the palace and chased out. Swoosh! He transformed into a golden flowing light that smashed open an enormous hole in the palace wall before flying into the dim and lightless night sky. He raised his head to look ahead and saw a thin figure in a black robe carrying a little boy as it flew swiftly in the night sky 200 meters away. Bastard, where do you think you're going? Ji Tianqing shouted out furiously with a murderous aura, and then he exploded out with vast true essence as he chased after the figure like a flowing light. Swish! In the blink of an eye, he'd caught up to the black-robed figure and stopped the black-robed figure in the sky above the ruins of the manor. Meanwhile, Ji Tianqing saw clearly that the black-robed figure was a thin and slovenly old man. His disheveled long hair covered half of his face and only revealed a pair of eyes that flickered with flames. Chapter 654. Yen Er was in a coma. His breath was very weak, and his handsome face was as pale as paper. His white robe was stained with dark red blood, and there were several obvious wounds on his body, so deep that his bones could be seen. Apparently, Yen had fought fiercely with the assassins of the Hall of Soul before he was captured. At this moment, Yunyao had also arrived. She stood 100 meters behind the black-robed old man and surrounded him with Ji Tianqing. She also saw Yen Er, who was seriously injured and unconscious. Her face turned cold as ice. In their minds, Yen Er's life had been rough, and he had endured a lot of hardships, which made them feel sorry for him. At this moment, when they saw Yen Er was seriously injured, they were furious, and a strong murderous intent burst out from their bodies. Ji Tianqing stared at the black-robed old man coldly and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why do you want to capture Yen Er?" The black-robed old man stared at Ji Tianqing and said in a deep and hoarse voice, "Kid, this is between me and him. It has nothing to do with you. If you don't want to die, get out of my way." Ji Tianqing thought that the black-robed old man had asked the assassins of the Hall of Soul to capture Yen Er to deal with him. But he didn't expect that the black-robed old man had a personal grudge against Yen Er. At this moment, Yunyao pointed her sword at the black-robed old man and shouted angrily, "Nonsense! Yen is only 11 years old. He has never been in the martial world. How could he be your enemy? Yen was only 11 years old, while the black-robed old man was old. It was impossible for them to have a grudge against each other. The black-robed old man didn't explain much. His eyes flashed with spiritual fire, and he asked in a deep and cold voice, "It seems that you too are determined to be my enemy. If so, I will fulfill your wish and send you both to heaven." Ji Tianqing's murderous intent burst out from his body. He sneered contemptuously, "You are just an old cripple in the 5th level of Sky Origin stage. How dare you be so arrogant? Hand over my junior, or I will make sure you die without a burial place." As he spoke, the true essence in his body accelerated, quickly accumulating strength, and his aura became extremely overbearing and tyrannical. The black-robed old man sneered, grabbed Yen and threw him into the distant night sky. The unconscious Yen cut through the night sky and fell toward the ruins 1,000 meters away. Shwa! Seeing this, Yunyao rushed over without hesitation, wanting to catch Yen before he fell to the ground. At this moment, a gloomy killing intent flashed through the black-robed old man's eyes. He suddenly drew a black curved blade and slashed 3 black blade lights at Yunyao. Die! The pitch-black scimitar gave off an ancient aura. It was obviously not an ordinary item. 3 pitch-black saber lights that were 30 meters long and contained a dense aura of death silently streaked across the night sky and were about to slash Yunyao. Yunyao sensed that something was wrong, but it was too late to dodge. The 3 pitch-black saber lights shrouded her figure and were about to kill her. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing, who had been ready for a long time, rushed to Yunyao's side in a flash. He stood in front of Yunyao and used the golden rock wings fusion technique, using his golden wings to block the saber light descending from the sky. Bang! 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 The huge saber lights slashed the golden wings, producing a deafening muffled sound. The violent shock wave sent Yunyao flying backward and she fell to the ground with Yen. Ji Tianqing was unscathed. He roared with a murderous aura and rushed toward the black-robed old man. Golden Slash. In anger, he used his killer move with all his strength. He released a giant golden sword that was 100 meters long and slashed toward the black-robed old man with a force that could split heaven and earth. As soon as the giant golden sword appeared, its dazzling brilliance illuminated the entire manor. The dark brown earth and ruins were also illuminated to the finest detail. The dazzling golden light also clearly reflected the horror in the black-robed old man's eyes. He obviously did not expect that Ji Tianqing, who looked only 18 or 19 years old, could perform such a terrifying sword technique. At this critical moment, the black-robed old man put away his black saber and flipped his palm. A simple and modeled bronze cauldron appeared out of thin air. Cauldron stabilizes heaven and earth. The black-robed old man activated his majestic vital essence and poured it into the cauldron. Suddenly, the bronze cauldron expanded to the size of a house and enveloped him. A vigorous and vast aura burst out from the cauldron, causing Ji Tianqing to feel an ancient and boundless aura. Clang! In the earth-shattering sound, the giant golden sword slashed the bronze cauldron. Suddenly, the bronze cauldron fell from the sky and smashed into the dilapidated manor, creating a deep pit with a radius of 1,000 meters. The giant golden sword also exploded with a bang, bursting out a shock wave like a torrent of golden light, sweeping in all directions. The entire manor was destroyed. The broken walls and brick ruins were blasted into dust by the shock wave. Fortunately, Yunyao had fled the manor with Yen and hid in the ruins a few miles away, blocking the bombardment of the shock wave. In the deep pit, a huge crack appeared on the surface of the bronze cauldron. Raging red flames were constantly emerging from the crack. Ji Tianqing flew above the deep pit and looked down at the bronze cauldron. He was about to perform his unique skill again. Although this bronze cauldron was an ancient treasure, it was a top Tianyuan level treasure and could be called a magic tool. However, this bronze cauldron was too old and dilapidated, and its power was very weak. Ji Tianqing would be able to break the cauldron if he slashed a few more times. At this moment, the cauldron suddenly shrank thousands of times, and the black-robed old man's figure appeared again. He was safe and sound, but his eyes were a little ferocious and crazy. "You despicable little bastard, you actually destroyed this old man's treasure. I'm going to kill you and use your flesh and blood to feed the spiritual snake." The black-robed old man cursed in a vicious tone. He quickly put away the bronze cauldron and waved his hand to shoot out a red flame. Swoosh! The crimson flame flew into the night sky and immediately expanded countless times in size. Suddenly, a colorful spiritual snake of flame appeared. It flew rapidly in the night sky and rushed toward Ji Tianqing. The spiritual snake of flame was hundreds of meters long. It was like a divine dragon of flame. It was surrounded by monstrous flames and exuded a terrifying heat. The air in all directions was burned clean by the high temperature. The area within a radius of 1,000 meters became a vacuum. The broken walls and brick ruins on the ground were burned red and turned into dark red magma. As the spiritual snake of flame flew, the dark red magma on the ground also flew into the sky. It condensed into pillars of magma and blasted toward Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing sensed the terrifying power of the spiritual snake of flame. He frowned and his eyes became serious. Is this a treasure or a demonic beast? There are 9 different colors of flames. This huge dragon-like spiritual snake of flame was neither a magic weapon nor a demonic beast. It was a flame with intelligence. Chapter 655. The 9-flame spiritual snake pierced through the night sky at lightning speed and pounced on Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing made a prompt decision to use his ultimate skill. He released black water that blotted out the sky and blasted it toward the 9-flame spiritual snake. Black water rope. The majestic power of the black water condensed into a black water column that was 100 meters long. It was like a dark and cold divine dragon. Water could counter fire. The black water was the essence of the water element and was more powerful. Boom! In the deafening sound, the black water rope and the 9-flame spiritual snake collided and created a shockwave that swept across the sky. The sky was filled with black water and flames of various colors, splashing in all directions. Water and fire were incompatible. The two forces cancelled each other out and quickly collapsed. In just 2 breaths, the black water rope collapsed and disappeared completely. The huge 9-flame spiritual snake had also shrunk a few times. It was only a dozen meters long. Even the 9 colored flames that were flickering all over its body had dimmed significantly. However, before Ji Tianqing could heave a sigh of relief, more than 10 dark red magma columns blasted toward him with violent power. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Each pillar of magma was as large as a dragon, containing the power to destroy heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing was surrounded by lava pillars from all directions. There was nowhere for him to hide, and there was no way for him to escape. At this critical moment, he folded his golden wings without hesitation. Golden rock wings fusion. A pair of large golden wings wrapped around him, protecting his body tightly. Boom boom boom. A total of 16 magma columns blasted the golden wings and instantly drowned Ji Tianqing's figure. At that moment, flames rose in the sky and magma splashed. It was as if a bright red sun had lit up the sky and lit up the surrounding 10 miles. The black-robed elder widened his eyes and stared at the flames and magma in the sky. His eyes were filled with anticipation. In his opinion, Ji Tianqing would definitely be injured on the spot after being blasted by the magma columns. However, the black-robed elder immediately saw Ji Tianqing's figure when the magma rain fell from the sky. Ji Tianqing was standing in the sky, unscathed. He was looking at him coldly, and his entire body was surging with a strong murderous intent. Metal slash! Ji Tianqing roared angrily and released a 100-meter-long golden sword light that slashed toward the black-robed old man. The giant golden sword tore through the night sky at lightning speed, containing an extremely domineering and fierce aura. The black-robed old man had seen the power of this sword technique. Even the bronze pill cauldron had a huge crack. When he saw the giant golden sword coming at him, his expression immediately changed, revealing a look of intense fear. At the critical moment, he formed a mysterious seal with both of his hands. He activated his majestic power and shot out a crimson flame into the 9-flame spiritual snake. Instantly, the 9-flame spiritual snake's body expanded once again, returning to 100 meters long. Spiritual snake protection. As the black-robed old man shouted in a low voice, the giant 9-flame spiritual snake wrapped around him and flew rapidly. The 9-flame spiritual snake's huge body wrapped around him a few times, protecting him very well. The next moment, the giant golden sword slashed the 9-flame spiritual snake's body violently, creating a loud and dull sound. Boom! The giant golden sword collapsed on the spot, bursting into golden light fragments that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The 9-flame spiritual snake and the black-robed old man were both sent flying backward. They drew an arc in the night sky and fell toward the ruins below. Moreover, the 9-flame spiritual snake was severely injured. Its body shrunk again, and it let out a sorrowful cry. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and a tinge of surprise flashed in his eyes. This 9-flame spiritual snake is a bit strange. It can block my killing moves time and time again. Ji Tianqing could tell that although the 9-flame spiritual snake was not a celestial artifact, its power and effects were better than a celestial artifact. It must be the black-robed old man's trump card. An idea popped up in his mind. He wanted to capture the 9-flame spiritual snake and study it carefully. It seemed that the 9-flame spiritual snake and the black-robed old man were about to fall into the ruins below. Just as they were about to hit the ground, the 9-flame spiritual snake stopped falling. It stretched out its huge body and caught the black-robed old man. Swoosh! With a flash of fire, the 9-flame spiritual snake flew back into the sky with the black-robed old man on its back. However, the black-robed old man had already seen Ji Tianqing's strength and means. He no longer had any intention to fight. He did not want to be entangled with Ji Tianqing. He stepped on the 9-flame spiritual snake and ran away as fast as a shooting star. You still want to run away? In your dreams. Ji Tianqing shouted with a murderous intent and chased after the old man without hesitation. Swoosh! He turned into a golden shooting star and pierced through the night sky like a sharp sword, making a sharp air-rending sound. In just 20 breaths' time, Ji Tianqing caught up with the 9-flame spiritual snake. He only hesitated for a moment before he activated the sword embryo in his abdomen. It turned into a huge golden sword and charged toward the black-robed old man. Sword of Judgment. The huge golden sword was 30 meters long and had a pair of wings formed by golden light. It contained an unstoppable aura that could pierce through everything. When the black-robed old man saw the Sword of Judgment coming toward him, his face changed drastically. His eyes were filled with horror. He could clearly feel that the power of the Sword of Judgment was more than twice the power of the golden slash. If he used the 9-flame spiritual snake to block it, the spiritual snake would most likely be smashed into pieces. At this critical moment, the black-robed old man took out the green bronze crucible without hesitation. Go, Universal Crucible! He shouted and injected his true core power into the green bronze crucible. The green bronze crucible expanded by 1,000 times. Then, he controlled the green bronze crucible and smashed it toward Ji Tianqing. In the next moment, the Sword of Judgment and the green bronze crucible collided in the sky and there was a deafening explosion. Dang! How powerful was the Sword of Judgment? The green bronze crucible, which was the size of a house, was smashed into pieces by the sword of judgment. It exploded into 48,000 pieces and scattered in all directions. The green bronze crucible, which was a top heaven's origin artifact, was smashed into pieces by Ji Tianqing's sword. The deafening explosion and violent shockwaves, mixed with the countless pieces of the green bronze crucible, swept across the area with a radius of a few thousand meters. When the black-robed old man saw the green bronze crucible being destroyed, he was heartbroken. However, no matter how precious the green bronze crucible was, it was not as important as the nine-flame spiritual snake. He sacrificed the green bronze crucible to block Ji Tianqing's killing move. He had achieved his goal. When the green bronze crucible was smashed into pieces, he had already ridden the nine-flame spiritual snake and escaped into the distance. The sword of judgment had also consumed a lot of energy and its radiance had dimmed. Swoosh! The giant sword lost its dazzling radiance and suddenly shrunk countless times. It flew back to Ji Tianqing and went back into his stomach. Ji Tianqing looked at the sky in front of him. When he saw the black-robed old man flying away on the nine-flame spiritual snake, he went all out to pursue him. Chapter 656. Ji Tianqing and the black-robed old man, two people, flew across the night sky one after the other. Their speed was as fast as lightning. The movement of the two people fighting was too big. Not only did it destroy the entire manor, but it also emitted a deafening loud noise and lit up a monstrous fire. With the manor as the center, the martial artists within a radius of 10 miles were all alarmed. From the many ruins and houses around, at least several dozen figures flew out. Most of them were Origin Core Realm and Heavenly Origin Realm powerhouses. Numerous invisible spiritual senses spread out, quietly probing the situation on the battlefield. There were also many powerhouses secretly staring at Ji Tianqing and the black-robed old man in the sky. In the underground dark city, order was chaotic, full of blood and slaughter. There would be martial artists fighting every day. A battle could break out anytime and anywhere. Everyone had long been used to it. Therefore, those alarmed powerhouses just hid in the dark to observe. No one showed up to intervene in this matter. Furthermore, everyone could detect that Ji Tianqing and the black-robed old man were both heavenly origin powerhouses with extraordinary strength. Ordinary people did not have the qualifications to intervene in the two of them at all. Ji Tianqing chased after the black-robed old man and soon left the manor ruins, flying towards the depths of the underground dark city. Yun Yao brought the seriously injured and unconscious Yener and hurriedly followed up. However, her speed was much slower. She only chased out for a short distance and already lost him. In desperation, she could only stop chasing and brought Yener to the exit of the underground dark city, preparing to leave the dark city. Ji Tianqing chased after the black-robed old man and entered the depths of the dark city not long after. The surrounding houses and buildings became denser and denser. Most of the buildings were well preserved. There were also many rebuilt houses and palaces. Under the dim curtain of night, many houses and buildings were lit up with lights. There were also many chaotic martial artist auras, as well as noisy noises. At this time, the black-robed old man descended from the sky and drilled into an old house and street. Ji Tianqing chased after without thinking, using spiritual senses to search for traces of the black-robed old man. However, the black-robed old man was very familiar with the environment and terrain of the underground dark city. He entered the old streets and alleys, scurrying around like a rat in a tunnel. His whereabouts also became erratic, making it hard for people to catch him. Ji Tianqing tried his best to follow closely, but after passing through 3 streets, he could no longer find any trace of the black-robed old man. He released his invisible spiritual sense to cover an area with a radius of 500 meters. He carefully searched for the black-robed old man's aura, not even letting go of the corners and the underground. However, after searching half the street, he couldn't find any clues and completely lost them. This result made his face gloomy, and he murmured angrily, damn old thing, relying on his familiarity with the underground city, he actually got rid of me. No way, after all, he entered the underground dark city for the first time, and his eyes were completely black. The black-robed old man had obviously lived in the dark city for many years and knew every street and corner like the back of his hand. Ji Tianqing stood outside a palace at the end of the street. His brows were tightly furrowed as killing intent flashed in his eyes. The next time I meet him, I absolutely won't let him escape. He muttered with a heart full of resentment, and was about to turn around and leave. But right at this moment, 4 figures abruptly rushed out from the black palace behind him, arriving at his side swiftly like lightning. Swish! 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 4 human martial artists wearing black armor drew their swords and sabers one after another, surrounding him. Ji Tianqing frowned, and his gaze coldly glanced at the 4 martial artists. He saw that these 4 human martial artists all had strength around the 8th level of the Origin Core stage. They wore standard armor and seemed to be the guards of the palace. One of the martial artists with a tall and sturdy figure stared at him with a ghastly gaze and shouted in a deep voice, "Who are you, to actually dare use your spiritual sense to spy on our dark shadow palace?" Hearing this person's words, Ji Tianqing's brows instantly raised, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Dark Shadow Palace? This is the Dark Shadow Palace. Earlier, he chased the black-robed old man here and completely lost his aura and clues. He had indeed used his spiritual sense to investigate the situation within the palace, searching for the black-robed old man's whereabouts. However, he was unable to find traces of the black-robed old man, and only detected that there were over 100 martial artists living within the palace. Those martial artists were mostly Origin Core stage experts, and there were even a few Sky Origin stage experts holding down the fort. Ji Tianqing didn't know where this palace was, and was just about to turn around and leave. Unexpectedly, the 4 guards rushed out and surrounded him, allowing him to know that this palace was the Dark Shadow Palace. Ji Tianqing was rather surprised, and his face revealed a playful sneer. No wonder that old cripple's aura vanished when he fled here. Looks like he's most likely hiding within the Dark Shadow Palace. The 4 armored guards didn't notice Ji Tianqing's abnormality. The person in the lead still had an icy cold gaze, and he furiously shouted with a murderous aura, "Speak quickly. What exactly do you want to do by spying on the secrets of the Dark Shadow Palace with ill intentions?" Ji Tianqing didn't answer his question, and instead asked, "Is this Dark Shadow Palace the property of the Duanmu family?" The 4 guards' faces changed, and a cold light flashed across the leader's eyes, and he shouted in a deep voice, "You thief, you really have ulterior motives. Take him down." Following the leader's cold shout, the 4 of them waved their swords, and a dazzling sword light slashed towards Ji Tianqing. "Humph. Seeking your own death." Ji Tianqing coldly laughed, and a cold murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He turned a blind eye to the sword light slashing towards him from all directions, and as fast as a flash of light, he waved his hands and shot out 4 golden sword lights. Swoosh 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 swoosh. The sharp sword light flashed wildly, and in an instant, it slashed across the necks of the 4 guards, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The bodies of the 4 guards instantly froze, and they stopped waving their swords. Their hands clutched their throats, and their eyes widened in horror. Their attacks were easily dodged by Ji Tianqing. Their attacks landed on the ancient black stone ground and produced muffled sounds of bang 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 bang. A moment later, the 4 of them were dead, and they fell to the ground with a plop plop, and no longer made a sound. At this time, Ji Tianqing had already walked to the entrance of the Dark Shadow Palace, and he lifted his foot to kick the heavy stone door that was 10 meters tall. Bam! In the deafening sound, the black stone door that weighed tens of thousands of kilograms was kicked down by his foot, and it fell to the ground in pieces, causing the entire palace to shake non-stop. The martial artists in the Dark Shadow Palace were immediately alerted, and a large group of guards in black armor rushed over as fast as the wind. "Who is it? How dare you trespass into the Dark Shadow Palace? You're courting death. How dare you cause trouble in the Dark Shadow Palace? You must be tired of living. Cut the crap, kill him. Attack together." The first dozen guards to reach the entrance roared with murderous intent, and immediately waved their swords and sabers at Ji Tianqing, launching a siege. Chapter 657. Before entering the underground Dark City, Yun Yao told Ji Tianqing before that the Dark Shadow Palace was the Duanmu family's property. For the black-robed old man to be able to instruct the Soul Shepherd Hall's assassins to capture Yen, he must have some connection with the Duanmu family. Furthermore, he disappeared when he escaped to the vicinity of the Dark Shadow Palace. Ji Tianqing had reason to believe that he most likely hid in the Dark Shadow Palace. Therefore, Ji Tianqing wanted to go on a killing spree. Even if he could not find the black-robed old man, he would also destroy the Dark Shadow Palace. When over a dozen Origin Core Realm guards rushed over, Ji Tianqing revolved his majestic True Essence, condensing it into a True Essence shield, protecting himself. Bang! 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 Several dozen blade lights and sword shadows slashed onto him, but they were all blocked by the True Essence shield. He waved both palms, his 10 fingers flicking repeatedly, continuously shooting out beams of golden sword light, charging towards the black-armored guards around him. Whoosh! 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 Countless sword lights shot out in unison, emitting a sharp ear-piercing sound of tearing through the air, bringing along puffs of dark red blood flowers. One black-armored guard after another had their throats or hearts pierced by the golden sword light, falling to the ground on the spot, unable to get up. No one could stop Ji Tianqing's charge, let alone block the golden sword light that he released. After a short few breaths, over a dozen guards around him were all killed on the spot. Over a dozen corpses were lying on the ground in disarray, causing the hall to be filled with a thick stench of blood. But Ji Tianqing was completely unscathed. His entire body was not even stained with blood. He strode across the vast hall and walked towards the depths of the Dark Shadow Palace. Black-armored guards constantly rushed out from all around. There were even quite a few guard captains and deacons who also rushed over to surround and kill him. But, no one could stop his footsteps. Origin Core Realm experts, no matter how many came, they would all die without a doubt. When Ji Tianqing passed through the hall on the first floor and charged to the second floor of the Dark Shadow Palace, over 30 corpses had already fallen behind him. The hall and the surrounding walls were also slashed with many holes by the blade lights and sword lights, splitting open a series of enormous cracks. Finally, when Ji Tianqing reached the hall on the second floor, he was stopped by several experts. In the brightly lit hall, there were 4 Sky Origin stage cultivators. The leader was an old man in a purple robe. He was the manager of the Dark Shadow Palace. He was at the 5th level of the Sky Origin stage. There were 3 middle-aged men standing behind him. They were wearing long robes with embroidered patterns. They were the leaders of the Dark Shadow Palace. They were all at the 3rd level of the Sky Origin stage. Besides that, there were over 10 Yuan Dan stage guards and deacons in the surroundings of the hall, all of them on alert as they stared at Ji Tianqing with eyes filled with killing intent. Ji Tianqing stepped into the hall and stopped 100 steps away from the purple-robed elder. His gaze swept across the 4 Heaven Yuan experts and the dozen or so Yuan Dan experts around him. Then, he secretly released his spiritual consciousness to explore every corner of the Dark Shadow Palace, searching for traces of the black-robed elder. The purple-robed elder's face was extremely gloomy. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Seeing Ji Tianqing's fearless attitude, the fury in his heart burned even more. He shouted angrily in a deep voice, "Kid, who are you? Don't you know where the Dark Shadow Palace is? How dare you barge into the Dark Shadow Palace and start a massacre? How dare you?" No matter how powerful you are, no matter who your backer is, you will die today. Ji Tianqing looked at the purple-robed elder emotionlessly and said indifferently, "Of course I know where this place is. Otherwise, why would I barge in? I'll give you a chance to live. Hand over the old cripple who just hid in here and I'll spare your lives." Hearing this, the purple-robed elder was so angry that he laughed, "Ha ha ha ha. Did I hear it wrong? Little bastard, you barged into the dark shadow palace alone and you're about to be killed. How dare you be so arrogant? Even if you kneel down and beg for mercy, I won't let you go. Today, I'll chop you into pieces and feed you to the dogs." With that, the purple-robed elder waved his hand and gave the order. "Kill him." The dozens of Yuan Dan experts around the hall all charged towards Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. Everyone waved their swords and sabers, slashing out an overwhelming amount of sword and saber light, enveloping Ji Tianqing's figure. In a split second, the wide hall with a radius of 100 meters was filled with fierce and domineering saber energy and sword intent, causing a violent hurricane to blow. Ji Tianqing was in the center of the hurricane. His entire body lit up with a dazzling light, condensing into an oval-shaped shield. Saber lights and sword shadows that blotted out the sky and covered the earth slashed at his true essence shield, but they were unable to harm him at all. The saber light and sword light were all shattered into pieces and scattered in all directions, hitting the walls and the ground, blasting out numerous holes and cracks. Ji Tianqing's palm flashed, and the black dragon sword appeared out of thin air. Dragon soars from the 9 heavens. He brazenly drew his sword and slashed out a 30-meter-long Frost Divine Dragon. Roar! The Frost Divine Dragon let out an earth-shattering roar and instantly broke through the blockade of saber light and sword light, blasting a few Yuan Dan experts into pieces. The Frost Divine Dragon did not blast towards the walls of the hall. Instead, it circled around Ji Tianqing and charged around the hall. Bam! 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 Wherever the Frost Divine Dragon passed, all the saber light and sword light were shattered, and the dozens of Yuan Dan experts were sent flying. Everyone was sent flying, crashing heavily into the walls of the hall, making a series of dull thuds. When they landed on the ground, all of them were bleeding from all 7 orifices, their bodies twisted and fell to the ground. 12 experts were killed on the spot, turning into bloody corpses and no longer making a sound. The few lucky survivors were still breathing, but they were also severely injured. Their bodies twitched as they screamed in pain. In the blink of an eye, the hall became a scene of devastation, a complete mess. The ground and walls were filled with cracks, and huge rocks kept falling from the roof, smashing into the hall. Smoke and dust filled the hall, and it was filled with the thick smell of blood. The only people who were still standing were Ji Tianqing, the purple-robed elder, and the 3 leaders. The 5 of them were all Sky Origin experts. When the 4 powerhouses saw Ji Tianqing kill more than a dozen powerhouses with a single move, their eyes widened in shock. The purple-robed elder was both furious and shocked. His hands and his sleeves were trembling. All these years, he had been in charge of the Dark Shadow Palace. With the Duanmu family as his backing, no one dared to provoke him, and no one dared to cause trouble in the Dark Shadow Palace. He had been a tyrant for many years, enjoying all the glory and wealth. It had been many years since he had personally fought a battle. He did not expect to meet such a ruthless person like Ji Tianqing today. Not only did Ji Tianqing start a massacre in the Dark Shadow Palace, he was also so powerful. The purple-robed elder took a deep breath and calmed down, temporarily suppressing his anger. He frowned and said in a low voice, "Kid, who are you? How dare you go against the Duanmu family?" Chapter 658. Obviously, the purple-robed elder was afraid of Ji Tianqing's terrifying strength and had no choice but to calm down. He knew that he could not stop Ji Tianqing. If they fought, the Dark Shadow Palace would be implicated. Therefore, he hurriedly used the Duanmu family as his backing, hoping to intimidate Ji Tianqing and temporarily stabilize him. As long as he could stall for time, the surviving guards and attendants of the Dark Shadow Palace would send the news to Central State City and report it to the Duanmu family. In at most 4 to 6 hours, Central State City would send experts as reinforcements. At that time, Ji Tianqing would not be able to escape even if he had wings and would definitely die. However, the purple-robed elder's plan was completely useless against Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was not afraid of the Duanmu family's power at all. He sneered, "Leave a way out." What a joke. When the Dark Shadow Palace killed people, did they think of this sentence? Also, didn't you just say that no matter what, you would tear me into pieces and no one would be able to save me? Since that's the case, why are you still talking nonsense? Ji Tianqing of course could guess the purple-robed elder's thoughts. He also knew that he could not stay in the Dark Shadow Palace for long and had to end the battle quickly. If he dragged on for too long, at most 4 to 6 hours, the Duanmu family's experts would arrive as reinforcements. Therefore, he had to destroy the Dark Shadow Palace as fast as lightning. Die! Ji Tianqing coldly shouted and brazenly waved his sword, sending out 4 dazzling sword radiances, fiercely chopping towards the purple-robed elder and the 3 elders. The 4 of them did not expect him to be so arrogant, not caring about the Duanmu family's prestige and ruthlessly attacking. When the 10-meter-long golden sword slashed over, the 4 of them revealed looks of grief and indignation. They roared with killing intent as they launched a counterattack. "Brat, you're courting death. Reckless thing, I'll fight it out with you. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll cut you into 8 pieces and grind your bones to dust." The purple-robed elder and the 3 leaders brandished their swords and sabers in unison, displaying their unique saber and sword techniques. They slashed out overwhelming saber light and sword shadows to block Ji Tianqing's attacks. Numerous saber lights and sword lights collided with each other, causing muffled peng 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 sounds to reverberate intensely in the hall. The violent force exploded, causing the entire Umbra Palace to tremble incessantly. The hall was immediately torn apart. The surrounding walls were shattered and collapsed with a loud bang. The roof also collapsed, turning into countless pieces of rubble and dust, falling down with a rumbling sound. In just a few breaths of time, more than half of the Shadow Palace had collapsed. Even with the protection of the formation, it was useless. Although the purple-robed elder and the 3 leaders managed to block the attack of the giant golden sword, they were still sent flying. Swish! Swish! The 4 of them passed through the smoke and dust and flew into the night sky outside the Shadow Palace. At the same time, Ji Tianqing also rushed out. He flew to the top of the Shadow Palace and performed an ultimate sword technique. Shatter the mountains and rivers. He shouted coldly. His figure flashed in the night sky like a flash of light, constantly waving his palms to release huge golden sword light. Swish! 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 In the blink of an eye, the night sky within a radius of 1,000 meters was covered by thousands of giant golden swords. The golden light was blinding and chaotic. Thousands of sword light covered the entire Shadow Palace, like a huge sword formation. In the next moment, Ji Tianqing detonated all the giant golden swords at the same time. Thousands of sword light exploded at the same time, erupting with destructive power. Boom! In the deafening explosion, the area within a radius of 1,000 meters was drowned in golden flames, like a huge golden sun. The night sky of this region, the towering Shadow Palace, and the surrounding houses and buildings were instantly shattered into pieces, turning into dust that filled the sky. There were still dozens of cultivators in the Dark Shadow Palace who did not manage to escape. There were also countless spirit stones, pills, and rare treasures that had been destroyed by this explosion, turning into ashes. Even the purple-robed elder and the 3 leaders who were further away were severely injured by the violent shockwave and vomited blood. They hurriedly retreated 1,000 meters away. The terrifying explosive power could really shatter mountains and rivers and destroy everything. After a while, when the dazzling golden light dissipated and the explosion in the night sky stopped, the world finally calmed down. The towering shadow palace disappeared, leaving behind a huge crater with a radius of a few hundred meters. Around the crater, there were many gullies and piles of gravel. The purple-robed elder and the three leaders flew back into the night sky. When they saw this shocking scene, they were stunned, crying as if they had lost their parents. It's over. The Shadow Palace is completely destroyed. The main family gave us control of the Shadow Palace. Now that the Shadow Palace is in ruins, we can't escape the blame. The main family will definitely kill us. If the main family wants to kill us, we will die even if we run to the ends of the earth. Since we are going to die either way, let's fight it out with that kid. Yes. If we can kill him, we might be able to atone for our crimes. The four of them exchanged a few words and immediately made up their minds to kill Ji Tianqing even if they had to die. However, just as they held their weapons and looked around for Ji Tianqing appeared behind them like a ghost in the night sky. Burning sky palm. Ji Tianqing roared in his heart. He raised his magma-like left arm and fiercely slapped out a gigantic flaming palm that blotted out the sky. When the huge flaming palm appeared, it was like a scorching sun in the sky, illuminating the night sky within a radius of 10 miles. The terrifyingly high temperature caused the air to burn. The purple-robed old man and the three leaders were immediately alerted. Their faces were filled with horror as they fled. Unfortunately, it was too late for them to escape when they sensed that something was wrong. Boom! The huge flaming palm hit them in an instant, enveloping them and blasting them into the deep pit and ruins below. Amidst the earth-shattering noise, the deep pit on the ground doubled in size and was more than 1,000 meters wide. Dust flew everywhere and covered the sky. The ground within a radius of dozens of miles trembled and cracked open as if there was a super earthquake. Many old and dilapidated houses collapsed from the tremors, causing countless martial artists to flee in panic as they screamed in horror. Countless martial artists were alarmed as they looked at the huge fire in the night sky in horror. No one knew what was going on and could only speculate in their hearts. After a long while, the flames that covered the sky and earth gradually dissipated. The purple-robed elder and the three leaders were all killed by the burning sky palm. The area where the Umbra Palace was located had been completely turned into scorched ruins, leaving only an abyss-like crater. The dust was still floating in the night sky, and the ground was still burning with dark red magma flowing. Ji Tianqing had already left quietly, his figure disappearing into the night sky. The outcome was just as he expected. The black-robed elder had already escaped without a trace. Chapter 659. Ji Tianqing was very clear that not long after he left, the Duanmu family would be alarmed. At that time, the news of the destruction of the Shadow Palace would also spread, causing a lot of shock in the underground city. The Duanmu family would definitely be furious and investigate this matter. The underground city and central state city would definitely be in turmoil for a while. However, these had nothing to do with him. He flew across the dark sky like a stream of light, and it didn't take long for him to leave the underground city. 2 hours later, Ji Tianqing returned to the central state city on the surface and rushed to the branch of the hidden cloud pavilion. He had discussed it with Yunyao before. As long as he found Yunyao would be responsible for taking out of the dark city as soon as possible. The two of them agreed to meet at the branch of the hidden cloud pavilion after the matter was over. When he rushed back to the branch of the hidden cloud pavilion, Deacon Li hurriedly greeted him and reported, "Young Master Ji, young Miss has returned and is in the secret room." Got it. Ji Tianqing nodded and hurried to the secret room. When he entered the secret room, he saw Yunyao helping Yen heal. Yen was lying on a spiritual jade bed in the corner of the secret room. His eyes were closed, his face was pale, and his breath was very weak. Yun Yao stood by the bed and waved her palms to release true essence into the jade bed. The green spiritual jade bed lit up with a dense green light, bursting with a strong vitality aura, constantly pouring into Yen Er's body. Ji Tianqing walked to the side of the spiritual jade bed and checked on Yen Er's situation. Seeing that his injury had stabilized and was not life-threatening, he was slightly relieved. Yun Yao stopped channeling and turned to Ji Tianqing. She asked in a concerned tone, "Tianqing, are you injured? What about the black-robed old man? Did you catch him?" Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly, "I'm fine. That old cripple had a spiritual treasure to protect his body, so he escaped. However, he escaped with the help of the Shadow Palace. I have already destroyed the Shadow Palace." Yun Yao was stunned for a moment and asked in disbelief, "You actually destroyed the Shadow Palace?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Just treat it as collecting some interest first and creating some trouble for the Duanmu clan." Yun Yao nodded and stopped talking about this matter. "Yen Er's injuries are very serious. Let's help him heal first." Ji Tianqing pondered for a moment before saying, "The imperial residence is more suitable for healing. Let's take him back." "That's good too." Yun Yao naturally nodded in agreement. After that, the two of them left the hidden cloud pavilion branch with Yen Er and quietly returned to the monarch mansion. When they returned to Tianqing Palace, Ji Ku and Qian Yu were already waiting anxiously. Ji Ku and Qian Yu heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that they had returned safely and rescued Yen Er. Ji Tianqing arranged for Yen Er to stay in the secret room and joined hands with Yun Yao to treat his injuries. Tianqing Palace was full of spiritual energy and there were a lot of elixirs and miraculous medicines. It was very suitable for healing injuries. The two of them spent half a day and helped Yen Er recover more than half of his injuries. Although Yen Er's strength was still weak, it was no longer a big problem. After resting in Tianqing Palace for 10 days to half a month, he would gradually recover. That night, Yen Er finally woke up. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and the others heard the news and quickly entered the secret room to visit. Yen Er was lying on the ice jade bed. His small face was slightly pale and his eyes were a little dim. He was in a bad state. When he saw everyone enter the secret room, he smiled and sat up to greet everyone. "Senior brother Tianqing, eldest senior sister, thank you for saving me. And junior sister Ji Ku and Qian Yu. It's all my fault. I made everyone worry again." Yun Yao and Ji Ku quickly comforted him, telling him not to think too much and to rest well. Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. He asked Yen Er, "The people who captured you this time are the Duanmu family's soul-hurting Hall assassins. The mastermind behind this is a black-robed old man with a broken arm and leg. He seems a little strange and claimed to have a grudge with you. Yen Er, why don't you tell us what happened before?" Yen nodded and told the cause of the matter in detail. "That morning, I entered Zhongzhou City and prepared to go to the Hidden Cloud Pavilion branch to contact the news. Who knew that when I passed by the Wu Feng Zhuang, there were 4 assassins dressed in black who attacked me without saying anything." Yen Er's story was the same as the result of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's investigation. After listening to his words, Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a solemn face, "So, the Duanmu family captured you to deal with me." Before he could finish, Yen Er shook his head and said, "Senior brother Tianqing, it's not like that. The mastermind is the black-robed old man with a broken arm and leg. He didn't want to deal with you. His target is me." Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Ji Ku all showed a puzzled expression. "Why do you say that? Junior brother Yen Er, why do you have a grudge with the black-robed old man?" "Yes, junior brother Yen Er, you haven't traveled in Zhongzhou before. Who would you have a grudge with?" Yen Er frowned and explained in a low voice, "After the black-robed old man caught me, I was awake for a few hours. During that time, the black-robed old man talked to himself for a long time like a madman. I can sense that he has the aura of our fire clan. The little flame snake in his palm is most likely the spiritual vein of our fire clan, the nine-flame spiritual snake. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Ji Ku all showed a surprised look. That old cripple is from your fire clan? Since he is from the fire clan and you are the crown prince of the fire clan, why does he want to deal with you? Yen nodded and said in a solemn tone, that old man is indeed from our fire clan. However, he should be an abandoned person who was expelled from the fire clan. He is missing a left arm and a right leg. It seems to be caused by injuries, but in fact, he was tortured by our fire clan. I once heard from my father that our fire clan has a kind of torture called cutting the flesh to return the blood. It is used to punish those who betrayed the fire clan and committed the most heinous crimes. This kind of torture is to cut off the left arm and right leg of the prisoner and let out half of the blood to apologize to the ancestors of the fire clan and repay the kindness of the fire clan. After the prisoners are tortured, they will often die and use their lives to atone for their sins. And those who are lucky enough to survive will be expelled from the fire clan and will never be able to step into the fire clan again. However, this kind of torture has not been seen for many years. After all, our fire clan is very united and loyal. After listening to Yen Er's story, Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Ji Ku all felt incredulous and showed a complicated expression. The fire clan actually has this kind of torture. That black-robed old man's left arm and right leg were cut and half of his blood was let out, but he didn't die. I guess when he was tortured, his strength had already reached the Sky Origin realm. Only a Sky Origin realm powerhouse can survive this kind of situation. It seems that there is a deep grudge between the black-robed old man and the fire clan. Chapter 660. Everyone discussed for a while, but they couldn't come to a conclusion. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, and said to Yen if it's really like what you said, that black-robed old man is an abandoned person of the fire clan, then he must have a grudge with the fire clan. It's reasonable for him to send people to catch you and claim to have a grudge with you. However, these are all old stories, I'm afraid only your parents know about the twists and turns in it. Yen nodded in agreement and said, then I'll immediately write a letter to my father and mother and tell them about this matter, maybe they know the identity of the black-robed old man. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, it should be like this. No matter what grudge the black-robed old man has with the fire clan, he shouldn't vent his anger on you. You have to report this matter to the Fire Emperor and Fire Empress, they will definitely think of a way to deal with it. In addition, the soul-hurting Hall's assassins have already targeted you, if they can catch you once, they can catch you a second time. During this time, you stay in the palace to recuperate, don't leave the monarch mansion, in case you encounter danger again. Yun Yao also nodded in agreement and said, yes, only the monarch mansion is safe. After saying that, she looked at Ji Tianqing again, and said in a dignified tone, Tianqing, this time we caused such a big commotion in the underground city, you even destroyed the Shadow Palace. The Duanmu clan must have already received the news, as long as they investigate carefully, it won't be difficult to find us. The Shadow Palace was destroyed, causing the Duanmu clan to suffer a lot of losses, and also a great loss of face, they will definitely retaliate against us. Following this, we should also make our preparations. We have to act carefully in Central Continent City. After Ji Tianqing heard this, he smiled slightly and shook his head gently, Yao, don't worry, what you said, I have already thought about it. Since I dared to brazenly destroy the Shadow Palace, I naturally have my plans and considerations. The Shadow Palace is the hidden property of the Duanmu clan, it can't be exposed, it can only be hidden in the underground city, they definitely don't dare to show it on the surface. Even if I destroy the Dark Shadow Palace, the Duanmu clan can only suffer in silence and won't dare to make a fuss. After all, no matter how powerful the Duanmu clan was, they wouldn't dare to openly go against the imperial court's orders. Moreover, the Duanmu clan was a big tree that attracted the wind. They also had many opponents and enemies. After this incident, their opponents and enemies would inevitably make use of this matter to make an issue out of it and take the opportunity to suppress and attack the Duanmu clan. This is not a small problem, and it will definitely give the Duanmu clan a headache. Yunyao thought for a moment and nodded. That's right. The Dark Shadow Palace was the property of the Duanmu clan. Everyone knew this, but the Duanmu clan would never admit it. Now that the Shadow Palace was in trouble, many families and forces that had grudges with the Duanmu family would definitely take this opportunity to strike. The Duanmu clan has to divert their attention to deal with those opponents, so they can't openly search for and hunt us down. And, that's right. Ji Tianqing nodded as a smile appeared on his face. He then continued in a playful tone, besides, since I've decided to take the initiative to attack the Duanmu family, I won't just sit and wait for death. I won't wait for the Duanmu family to come knocking on my door for revenge. Our previous plan has already taken effect, the Duanmu clan has already had internal strife. But this is not enough, and it can't hurt the foundation of the Duanmu clan. With Duanmu Huang's ability, he will definitely settle this matter quickly. So, I have to carry out the second step of the plan, which is to find ways to destroy the Duanmu clan's property. The Duanmu clan has fallen into chaos, and I have to add fuel to the fire to wreak havoc, gradually weakening their power. Hearing this, Yunyao, Ji Ku, and Yen all showed expectant expressions and looked at him with interest. Tianqing, what's the second step of your plan? Big brother Tianqing, how are you going to wreak havoc? At the mention of this question, Ji Tianqing's face showed a playful smile, and said in a low voice, I've been to Greenwood City before, and I've passed by the Mangu Jungle twice. As everyone knows, the Mangu Jungle is the Duanmu clan's territory, and there are endless medicinal herbs growing there. Also, there are several medicinal gardens that the Duanmu clan has meticulously built in the depths of the Mangu Jungle. As long as we find a way to destroy those medicinal gardens, we can cause huge losses to the Duanmu clan, and greatly weaken their power. After all, the medicinal herbs cultivated in those medicinal gardens are all precious spiritual herbs. Spiritual herbs need to be carefully cultivated, and they will only mature after many years of growth. Only then can they be sold and refined into elixirs. Once the medicinal gardens are destroyed, most of the spiritual herbs will be in short supply, and they will need to be cultivated for many years before they can mature again. The Duanmu clan is an elixir family, and they rely on elixirs to establish themselves in the world. As long as their supply is in short supply, a series of properties will be affected and impacted. Even if the Duanmu clan still has medicinal herbs in storage, they won't be able to maintain it for long. Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Yun Yao's and Ji Ku's eyes instantly flashed with a bright light as they revealed astonishment. Big brother Tianqing, you want to destroy the Duanmu clan's medicinal gardens? Tianqing, isn't this idea of yours a little too bold? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, and said in a playful tone, Ao Yao, I understand your concern, but this plan of mine is indeed a little bold. The medicinal gardens in the Mangu Jungle are the foundation and lifeline of the Duanmu clan. The defense must be very tight, and there might even be experts guarding them. Although the Duanmu clan has many enemies and rivals, no one dares to lay a hand on the medicinal gardens. Those forces are either not strong enough, or they don't dare to be so ruthless. After all, destroying the medicinal gardens is equivalent to taking the Duanmu clan's life, and that is an irreconcilable hatred. However, I killed Duanmu Yulong and Duanmu Feiyu. The Duanmu clan has a blood feud with me, and they definitely won't let me go. Since that's the case, I'm not afraid of anything. What's there that I don't dare to do? Yun Yao frowned and thought for a moment, then nodded and said, Tianqing, your idea is not bad. It's very bold, and once it succeeds, it will definitely deal a heavy blow to the Duanmu clan. Actually, my father had the same idea back then, but our Yin clan can't go to war with the Duanwu clan, so we can only think about it. Ji Tianqing nodded in agreement and said, "That's right, the three ancient families must maintain peace and balance. This is the imperial court's method of balancing. Only then can we ensure the stability and peace of the human race. However, I'm different. I can use all kinds of methods to deal with the Duanwu clan without any scruples. This is also one of the reasons why I can talk to your father about cooperation." Yunyao thought for a moment, then said with a serious expression, "Tianqing, although your plan is feasible, we must treat it seriously and plan for the long term. The medicinal gardens in the Mangu jungle are the lifeline of the Duanwu clan, and the defense is very tight. According to the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's understanding, not only are there a large number of elite guards guarding the medicinal gardens, there is also an ancient beast guarding them." Chapter 661. Ancient Mutated Beast. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows slightly and revealed an interested look. There were very few demonic beast bloodlines from the ancient era. Every ancient mutated beast had unimaginable abilities. They were much more mysterious and powerful than ordinary demonic beasts. "Yao Yao, can you tell me more about that ancient mutated beast?" Yun Yao frowned and thought for a while. Then she said, "I heard my father mention that the ancient mutated beast guarding the Duanwu family's herb garden is called the Firebird of Heaven. That ancient mutated beast is a bird as big as a mountain. It can spit out fire that can burn everything. According to the historical records, the Firebird of Heaven was a rare mutated beast in the ancient era. It can control the power of earth fire and heavenly fire. It is very destructive. A commander of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion once sneaked into the herb garden and observed the Firebird of Heaven at close range. The Firebird of Heaven has been reared by the Duanwu family for hundreds of years. Its strength has reached the half-step soul-tempering realm. That Firebird of Heaven is very close to becoming a demonic emperor mutated beast. It has the chance to become a divine beast in the future." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, and his eyes became slightly solemn. A half-step soul-tempering realm ancient mutated beast. Has no one dared to destroy the Duanwu family's herb garden? He thought of the mighty miracle god he met in Giant Miracle City. Before he found his heart, he was already a half-step soul-tempering realm cultivator. At that time, he and the other 9 prodigies joined forces to attack the mighty miracle god. They were defeated by the mighty miracle god. If there was really a half-step soul-tempering realm ancient mutated beast in the Duanwu family's herb garden, they would be in big trouble. Apart from soul-tempering realm cultivators, no one could resist the attack of the Firebird of Heaven. With his strength of Sky Origin Stage 4, he was no match for the Firebird of Heaven. Yun Yao nodded and said, "That's right. With the Firebird of Heaven guarding the herb garden, nothing will go wrong. For so many years, no one has dared to destroy the herb garden of the Duanwu family. They don't even dare to get close to it. Tianqing, if you want to destroy the herb garden, you have to think it over carefully." Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, "That Firebird is so strong, it will definitely be difficult to deal with. If I don't have a way to deal with the Firebird of Heavenly Wind, I will definitely be seriously injured or even lose my life if I rashly sneak into the Duanwu clan's herb garden. It seems that I really have to think of a foolproof plan before I can start." At this point, everyone fell silent, and the secret chamber fell into silence. Although Ji Tianqing's idea was very good, if he didn't deal with the Firebird, everything would be empty talk. At this moment, a guard came to the door of the secret room and reported the news in a respectful tone. "My lord, here is a letter for you. Please take a look." Ji Tianqing quickly got up and opened the door of the secret room. He took a letter from the guard. He opened the envelope and took out the letter inside. He held it in his hands and read it carefully. After reading the contents of the letter, he immediately revealed a smile. Seeing his expression, Yun Yao and Ji Ku looked at him in confusion. "Tianqing, whose letter is this? Big brother Tianqing, is there any good news? Ji Tianqing handed the letter to Ji Ku and nodded with a smile. He said to the two girls, there is indeed good news. This letter is from Senior Beast King. He left Zhongzhou for some business and returned to Beast King Valley in Tianshan region. Now that he has finished his business, he has returned to Zhongzhou city. Senior Beast King said that if we have nothing to do, we can go to Qingfeng Courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley to look for him. Senior Beast King came back just in time. He has dealt with spirit beasts and demonic beasts all his life, so he is very knowledgeable in this field. He definitely knows more about the Firebird of Heavenly Wind. Maybe he has a way to deal with the Firebird of Heavenly Wind. At this point, Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. Then, he said to Yun Yao, Yao Yao, you go back and rest first. I'm going to Qingfeng Courtyard to pay a visit to Senior Beast King and ask him about the Firebird of Heavenly Wind. If Senior Beast King can help me think of a way, I'll come to you to discuss this matter. Yun Yao nodded in agreement. She said goodbye to everyone and turned to leave the secret room. After she left, Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku also walked out of the secret room. Ji Ku saw that Ji Tianqing wanted to visit the Beast King alone, so she pulled his arm and said, Big brother Tianqing, we haven't seen Senior Beast King for a long time. I want to go to Qingfeng Courtyard with you. Ji Tianqing didn't refuse and nodded without hesitation. Then, the two of them rode Qian Yu and flew into the sky, rushing toward the exit of the monarch mansion. 2 hours later, Qian Yu carried the two of them to the end of Fish Dragon Alley and landed outside the gate of Qingfeng Courtyard. The guards at the gate recognized Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku. Naturally, they cupped their hands in greeting and hurriedly opened the gate. The two of them hadn't returned to Qingfeng Courtyard for a few months. When they entered the courtyard, they saw that the courtyard hadn't changed much. However, on a few big trees in the courtyard, there were a few clever and cute little spirit monkeys. They were playing happily. Ji Tianqing recognized those little spirit monkeys. When he went to Beast King Valley to pay a visit to the Beast King, he saw those cute little guys. Obviously, the Beast King brought these little spirit monkeys to Zhongzhou City when he returned to Beast King Valley this time. After a while, Ji Tianqing, Ji Ku, and Qian Yu entered the main hall and saw the Beast King, whom they hadn't seen for a long time. The Beast King was dressed as usual. He was tall and thin, wearing a white robe. His eyes contained a calm and tranquil temperament. The two of them brought Qian Yu into the main hall and bowed to the Beast King with a smile. Senior Beast King, long time no see. Senior Beast King, we're here to visit you. The Beast King quickly got up and walked in front of the two of them. He said with a smile, we haven't seen each other for a few months. Seeing that you're safe and sound and that your strength has improved, this old man is relieved. The two of them exchanged a few pleasantries and sat down. They sat down and chatted while drinking tea. The Beast King stroked his beard and looked at Ji Tianqing with sparkling eyes. He said with a heart full of gratification, Tianqing, in the past few months, this old man has heard many of your deeds in Tianshan region. I didn't expect that in just a few months, you'd grow so quickly. This old man thought that after you entered the monarch mansion, you'd have to cultivate in peace for a year or two before you could stand out. I didn't expect that your name would shake the world so quickly. You've become a peerless genius admired by all the warriors in the world and even became the Tianshan region lord. You don't know how shocked and proud this old man was when I heard the news. That old fogey Chu Tian is really lucky to have such an outstanding disciple like you. If this old man could meet such an outstanding genius disciple like you, I'd wake up laughing even in my dreams. It had been 2 to 3 months since Ji Tianqing had become the territorial lord of the Tianshan region. Chapter 662. The Beast King praised Ji Tianqing generously for the legend and miracle that he had created. However, after he calmed down, he frowned and revealed a worried expression. Tianqing, although you are now a world-renowned peerless genius and have also become the Tianqian region lord. However, you killed Duanmu Yulong, so the Duanmu family will not let you off. That Duanmu family is one of the three ancient families. Although you are the Tianqian region lord, you do not have your own power and background. I am really worried that if the Duanmu family uses despicable methods to take revenge on you, you will not be able to deal with it. Seeing the Beast King's worried expression, Ji Tianqing hurriedly nodded and said, Senior Beast King, you are right. The Duanmu family is already secretly dealing with me. However, no matter how powerful the Duanmu family is, I will not sit and wait for death. Coincidentally, I have encountered a troublesome matter, so I specially came here today to ask for your advice. The Beast King instantly raised his eyebrows and asked, Oh. What is it? Nephew, please tell me directly. I will do my best to help. Ji Tianqing explained his plan and asked the Beast King about the heavenly wind fire bird. When the Beast King heard that he wanted to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden, his face was filled with shock and disbelief. Tianqing, you actually want to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden? That is something that countless powers want to do but do not dare to do. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, That's right. I want to do what others do not dare to do. Only by doing what others cannot do can I heavily injure the Duanmu family. Senior Beast King, do you know about the heavenly wind fire bird that guards the herb garden? Is there any way to deal with it? The Beast King frowned and said with a grave expression, I naturally know about the heavenly wind fire bird, this ancient beast. According to legends, the heavenly wind fire bird is a beast born from the union of the divine bird vermilion bird and the spiritual beast green bird. The heavenly wind fire bird is a noble bloodline among the spiritual beasts and birds. It has an extremely high status and prestige. They live on volcanoes that are thousands of feet high and usually build their nests near the crater of the volcano. Normally, they would devour the power of heavenly flames and astral winds. Every time the volcano erupted, they would also absorb a large amount of earth flame essence. So, the firebird of the heavens and earth is most adept at controlling the spirit flames of the heavens and the earth and strong winds. A single flap of its wings is capable of sweeping up monstrous flames that incinerate everything. Speaking of the firebird of heavenly wind, the Beast King's words were clear and logical. Clearly, he was no stranger to this ancient beast. The heavenly wind firebird is extremely rare. Since the ancient times, it has disappeared without a trace and has almost never appeared again. There were probably only a few heavenly wind firebirds left in the world. I didn't think that the Duanmu family actually possessed a skywind firebird. Truly inconceivable. The Beast King's tone was somewhat astonished. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said with a serious expression, the Duanmu family's heavenly wind firebird has actually reached the half-step spirit refinement stage. Even if this old man were to make a move personally, I'm afraid I would still be powerless. Even if I used all my means, I still wouldn't be able to subdue it. Hearing his words, Ji Tianqing frowned, and a worried look appeared in his eyes. He thought to himself, even with the Beast King's experience and means, he still can't deal with that heavenly wind firebird. Looks like destroying the Duanmu family's herb garden is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Ji Tianqing's mood was downcast. Unwilling to give up, he asked the Beast King, Senior Beast King, is there really no way to deal with that heavenly wind firebird? The Beast King frowned and pondered for a moment before replying in a low voice, it's not that there's no way at all. However, the method that this old man has thought of is truly too difficult to achieve. There's no need to mention it. A look of hope appeared in Ji Tianqing's eyes. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, No, Senior Beast King, please tell me. Perhaps I have a chance to realize your method. The Beast King thought for a moment before nodding and saying, All right, then this old man will speak frankly. Everything in the world has a spirit, and they all reinforce and subdue each other, just like the power of the 5 elements. No matter if it's demon beasts, spirit beasts, or strange beasts, as long as they don't jump out of the 5 elements, they have to abide by the principle of mutual reinforcement and subtraction. No matter how powerful a strange beast is, it has its natural nemesis and natural enemy. In the ancient legends, although the heavenly wind fire bird is incomparably powerful, it's an ancient strange beast second only to a divine beast. However, the heavenly wind fire bird also has its natural enemy. Its natural enemy is the ice dragon rhinoceros. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. Ji Ku's face was also full of astonishment. He subconsciously asked, "Senior Beast King, don't tell me that your method is to let us find an ice dragon rhinoceros to deal with the heavenly wind fire bird?" The Beast King couldn't help but laugh. He waved his hand and explained, "Cuckoo, you're mistaken. The ice dragon rhinoceros is an ancient strange beast born from the union of the frost divine dragon and the heaven-shaking rhinoceros. It's already on the verge of extinction. How can we find it? The method that this old man has thought of is to use a Dharma treasure called the ice dragon hammer. It can restrain the heavenly wind fire bird." Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku were enlightened. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Ice dragon hammer. Is it a soul-grade Dharma treasure? Where is this Dharma treasure now? How can we get it? The Beast King explained patiently, the ice dragon hammer is indeed a soul-grade Dharma treasure. It's also one of the demon clan's most treasured Dharma treasures. It's said that it was refined from the skull of an ice dragon rhinoceros by an ancient demon clan almighty after killing it. That skull is the hardest bone in the entire body of the ice dragon rhinoceros, and the end is connected to the rhinoceros horn. Therefore, the shape of that skull looks like a huge hammer. The ice dragon hammer contains the power of the ice dragon rhinoceros and can release endless heavenly ice-cold air and thousand-year-old cold wind. It's just right to restrain the power of the heavenly wind fire bird. It's a pity that the ice dragon hammer is regarded as a treasure by the demon clan. It hasn't appeared for more than 100 years. How can you obtain it? Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku instantly understood. No wonder the Beast King said that this method couldn't be realized. It was better not to mention it. Since the ice dragon hammer was a treasure of the demon clan, it must be strictly protected. They didn't have any connections or friendship with the demon clan. It was impossible for them to borrow it, much less snatch the ice dragon hammer. Even if the Beast King told them this method, it would be useless. Ji Tianqing was silent for a while before he cupped his hands and bowed. "Thank you, Senior Beast King, for clearing my doubts. This junior can't thank you enough." The Beast King said earnestly, "Tianqing, that ice dragon hammer is in the hands of the demon imperial court. It's impossible for you to obtain it. I suggest that you reconsider." Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you, Senior, for your reminder. I will consider it carefully and think of a way." The Beast King only nodded slightly and didn't say anything else. Of course, he could see that Ji Tianqing had made up his mind to destroy the Duanmu clan's herb garden. Although Ji Tianqing didn't show it on the surface, he was actually thinking about how to obtain the ice dragon hammer. Next, Ji Tianqing asked the Beast King a few more questions. Chapter 663. Early in the morning, when the sun had just risen, Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku returned to the monarch mansion. After returning to Tianqing Palace, Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku returned to the secret chamber. Yan was recuperating when she sensed that they had entered the secret chamber. She quickly ended the recuperation and opened her eyes. She looked up at Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku. Seeing their heavy expressions, she asked with concern, "Senior brother Tianqing, have you asked Senior Beast King? What's the situation?" Ji Tianqing nodded and repeated the Beast King's words. After hearing this, Yan Er's eyes flashed and she said subconsciously, "Ice dragon hammer. The demon clan's treasure. Senior brother Tianqing, isn't Prince Kunwa the demon clan's prince? If you want to use the ice dragon hammer to deal with the heavenly wind fiery bird, you can ask Kunwu for help. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said with a smile, Yen, I've already thought of this method on the way back. However, Kunwu and we can only be considered acquaintances. We're not even good friends. The Ice Dragon Hammer is stored in the Demon Clan's Imperial Court. It's the Demon Clan's treasure. How can Kunwu lend it to us? Moreover, even if Kunwu is willing to lend it to us, he may not be able to make the decision. Yen Er's face stiffened and she pouted. Alright, based on our relationship with him, there's no reason for him to help us. Everyone was silent and the secret chamber fell into silence. Ji Ku stood silently at the side. Seeing Ji Tianqing frowning and worried, she couldn't help but feel worried and anxious. In the past few months, Ji Tianqing had risen rapidly and become a world-renowned peerless genius. However, in the process, he had also encountered all kinds of troubles and dangers. Ji Ku's heart clenched as she watched him repeatedly encounter danger. Every time he encountered trouble, he had to rack his brains to think of a way to deal with it. Unfortunately, her strength was low and she could not help Ji Tianqing, so she could only be anxious. She felt more and more useless, like a burden. Other than bringing him trouble, she couldn't help him at all. The most helpless thing was that she could do nothing but feel heartache and blame herself. Now that she saw Ji Tianqing worrying about the Ice Dragon Hammer, she secretly made up her mind that no matter what, she would help him solve this problem. At this time, Ji Tianqing saw that the atmosphere was a little gloomy, so he smiled and said, Well, I will think of a way to solve this matter. You don't have to worry about it. Yen, you should focus on recuperating from your injuries. Ku, you should go back and rest too. Ji Ku nodded and said goodbye to Ji Tianqing and Yen. He then turned and walked out of the secret room. However, she didn't return to her residence to rest. Instead, she quietly left Tianqing Palace and rushed to Kunwu Palace alone. 2 hours later, Ji Ku arrived at the peak of the Kunwu mountain range and arrived at the gate of Kunwu Palace. The 2 monster clan guards at the gate stopped her with expressionless faces and asked her why she had come. Ji Ku hesitated for a moment before she calmly said, Please report to Kunwu Prince that Ji Ku has come to visit and has something important to discuss with him. One of the demon clan guards nodded and said in a cold tone, Wait here. I will go and report to His Highness now. After saying that, the demon clan guard turned and entered Kunwu Palace to report the news. Ji Ku stood under the towering gate and lowered her head to look at the ground under her feet. She felt a little uneasy. Although she didn't want to have any contact with Kunwu. Previously, Kunwu had taken the initiative to look for her every time they met. But this time, in order to help Ji Tianqing, she mustered up her courage and took the initiative to look for Kunwu. Unknowingly, a quarter of an hour passed. The demon clan guard returned to the gate and saluted Ji Ku with cupped fists. Miss Ji Ku, His Highness invites you. Please follow me. Ji Ku secretly heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that Kunwu was willing to meet her. She followed the demon clan guard into Kunwu Palace and walked into the depths of the palace. She followed the demon clan guard through 2 courtyards and 2 palaces. She entered the main hall of Kunwu Palace and arrived at the door of Kunwu's study. The demon clan guard led her to the door and turned to leave. She pushed open the door of the study and stepped into the study. This was a spacious and bright study. It was surrounded by antique bookshelves filled with thousands of books. There was a large table near the window. On it were several stacks of books, a few stacks of documents and letters, and a bronze incense burner. A wisp of light blue smoke floated in the burner, emitting a calming and refreshing sandalwood fragrance. Kunwu, who was wearing a fox fur coat, was sitting behind the table. He held a golden brush in his hand and was writing something with a serious expression. After Ji Ku smelled the faint fragrance, her mind calmed down and she became much calmer. She walked to the front of the large table and looked at Kunwu, who was writing with his head lowered. She bowed slightly and said, Ji Ku greets His Highness Kunwu. Kunwu returned to his senses and hurriedly put down the brush and paper. He raised his head and looked at her. A gentle smile appeared on his handsome and resolute face. He said gently, "Cuckoo, there's no need to be so courteous with me. Quickly sit down and talk." As he spoke, he nodded and indicated for Ji-ku to sit down. He also had the guard at the door of the study bring Ji-ku a cup of spiritual tea. After Ji-ku sat down, he smiled and asked, "Cuckoo, why did you take the initiative to look for me today? Is there something you need my help with?" Ji-ku nodded and stood up. She said seriously, "His Highness Kunwu, you promised me before that if I came to you with any difficulties, you would do your best to help me. I wonder if your Highness Kunwu's words from back then still count." Kunwu was stunned for a moment, but he nodded without hesitation. He said in a serious tone, "Cuckoo, I naturally keep my promise to you. Tell me, what do you need my help with this time?" Seeing that Kunwu was so straightforward, Ji-ku no longer hesitated. She said with a serious expression, "His Highness Kunwu, I heard that the demon race has a Dharma treasure called the Ice Dragon Hammer. I would like to ask His Highness Kunwu to lend me the Ice Dragon Hammer. Rest assured, Your Highness, I will only borrow it for a few days. After I'm done with it, I will definitely return it to you." Ji-ku only said that she wanted to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer, but she didn't mention why she wanted to borrow it. She also didn't explain what she wanted to do with it. After Kunwu heard this, he only raised his eyebrows. He didn't ask her why she wanted to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. He looked at Ji-ku with a deep gaze and said in a serious tone, "Cuckoo, as long as you ask for it, I will definitely do my best to help you. I will definitely help you with this. However, the Ice Dragon Hammer is my race's treasure. It is stored in the Imperial Court and can't be used easily. Moreover, I can't make the decision on this matter. I have to report it to His Majesty the Demon King." Chapter 664. After hearing Kunwu's words, Ji-ku's eyes instantly dimmed. Although, she had already expected this result. The Ice Dragon Hammer was the demon clan's most precious treasure. How could she borrow it just because she wanted to? However, before she came to Kunwu Palace, she still had a glimmer of hope in her heart. Now that she heard Kunwu's reply, the glimmer of hope in her heart was instantly shattered, and her heart was filled with a deep sense of loss. She stood there dejectedly and muttered in her heart, "Am I really so useless that I can't help Big Brother Tianqing no matter what? Big Brother Tianqing has done so much for me, and even risked his life to protect me. However, I can't do anything when he's in trouble and danger. I can't help him at all." Ji-ku pursed her lips, and a determined look flashed across her eyes. Then, she gritted her teeth and made up her mind. She knelt down in front of Kunwu and pleaded, "Your Highness Kunwu, you're a noble prince, the heir to the demon clan's imperial court, and the future demon emperor. I know that as long as you're willing to help me, you'll have a way to persuade the demon emperor. I'll definitely be able to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer, right? Cuckoo, please help me this time. I only need to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer for a few days. I beg you to help me." Kunwu clearly didn't expect Ji-ku to kneel down and beg him. He hurriedly stood up and reached out to help Ji-ku up. He sighed with a complicated expression. Sigh. "Cuckoo, why do you have to do this?" Ji-ku looked at him with a burning gaze, and her eyes revealed a deep sense of hope. She asked, "Your Highness Kunwu, you're willing to help me, right?" Kunwu nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, "Cuckoo, it's not that there's no way, but it requires your cooperation." When Ji-ku heard that there was a way, she immediately revealed a trace of joy and nodded without hesitation. "Your Highness Kunwu, as long as you can help me borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer, I'm willing to cooperate no matter what you want me to do." Kunwu was startled again when he heard this. He chuckled and asked, "Cuckoo, you silly girl. How can you agree so hastily? What if my request is disadvantageous to you?" Aren't you afraid of getting hurt? Ji Ku was silent and didn't speak, but she looked at him with a firm gaze, which contained a touch of trust. Kuan-Wu understood her eyes and felt warm in his heart. He reminded her in a serious tone, "Ku, you have to remember, in the future, except for me and the people closest to you, if someone else says such words, you must not agree easily. You must consider it carefully." Ji Ku nodded and said solemnly, "Thank you for your reminder, Your Highness. Ku will remember it." Only then did Kuan-Wu return to her rattan chair. She smiled and said, "All right, you don't have to be so nervous. In fact, what I need you to do is very simple. You don't need to take any risks, and you don't need to pay any price. You just need to make a trip back to the demon race with me to confirm one thing." Ji Ku revealed a puzzled expression and asked subconsciously, "Your Highness, what did you confirm?" Kuan-Wu chuckled and shook his head, "I can't tell you about this for the time being. After you return to the demon clan with me, you will naturally understand. Also, there's something I have to tell you in advance. Even if you do as I ask, I can't guarantee that you will be able to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. It's just that there's a higher chance of success." Ji Ku frowned and thought for a moment before nodding in agreement. Although she might not be able to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer, as long as there was a chance of success, she had to try. She didn't want to be a useless burden that would only burden Ji Tianqing and not be able to help him. "Your Highness Kuan-Wu, I promise you. When do you plan to bring me back to the demon race?" Kuan-Wu smiled and nodded. "I've been very free recently and have nothing to do. I can return to the demon race at any time. You can go back and prepare first. When you are ready, come and find me." Ji Ku immediately agreed and said seriously, "All right, I will arrange it as soon as possible." Then, she bowed to Kuan-Wu and left the study room. Kuan-Wu sat alone in the study room and watched her leave. Her lips curled into a smile as she muttered softly, "That's great. I've been waiting for this day. Ku finally believes in me and is willing to return to the demon race with me. The answer will be revealed soon." As he spoke, his eyes revealed a look of strong anticipation. After Ji Ku left Kuan-Wu Palace, she quietly returned to Tianqing Palace. After returning to her residence, she simply packed her things and prepared her luggage. She asked the palace maids and learned that Ji Tianqing was resting in a secret room. Then, she waited patiently for an entire day. The next morning, she rushed to Ji Tianqing's residence. Ji Tianqing had just finished his meditation when he saw her enter the room. She seemed to have something on her mind. Thus, he asked in a concerned tone, "Ku, why did you come to find me so early in the morning? Is there something wrong?" Ji Ku nodded and said, "Big brother Tianqing, I'm here today to bid you farewell. I might have to leave for a long time, you're leaving the imperial residence." Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and asked worriedly, "Ku, other than the imperial residence which is still considered safe, it's very dangerous outside. Why do you want to leave at this time? Did something happen?" Ji Ku was silent for a moment and thought to herself, during this period of time, Big brother Tianqing has been focused on dealing with the Duanmu family. He's already mentally and physically exhausted. I can't tell Big brother Tianqing the truth. Otherwise, he'll be worried about me and it'll only add to his troubles. Thinking of this, she lied and said to Ji Tianqing, "Big brother Tianqing, I received a letter from Qingyun Kingdom saying that Imperial Father is seriously ill and is in a critical condition. I want to return to Qingyun Kingdom to visit Imperial Father." Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and said in a deep voice, "Your Imperial Father is seriously ill. You should go back and visit him. However, the journey from Zhongzhou City to Qingyun Kingdom is too long. I'm worried about you going back alone. The Duanmu family must be watching our every move and they'll definitely find an opportunity to make a move on you. Ku, I'll accompany you back to Qingyun Kingdom in case you meet with danger like Yan Per." Hearing his words, Ji Ku quickly waved her hand and rejected him. Her tone was a little anxious as she said, "No, no, no. Big brother Tianqing, I'll go back alone. I don't need you to accompany me. It'll take at least 2 months to return to Qingyun Kingdom from Zhongzhou City. You have a heavy responsibility now and you still have to work hard to improve your strength. How can you waste your time on this matter? All in all, I'll go back alone. You can focus on your own matters." Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and looked at her with a deep gaze. Even though Ji Ke tried her best to hide her true thoughts, she was still pure and kind. She wasn't good at lying and deceiving others. Ji Tianqing could tell at a glance that she wasn't telling the truth and was hiding something. Chapter 665. Although Ji Tianqing could tell that Ji Ke was not telling the truth, he knew that there was something wrong with her. If she wanted to hide her true thoughts, Ji Tianqing would not force her to explain. After Ji Ke bid farewell to him and left Tianqing Palace, he quietly followed Ji Ke. He decided to see for himself what Ji Ke was hiding and what she wanted to do. He saw that after Ji Ke left Tianqing Palace, she did not head towards the exit of the emperor residence. Instead, she rushed towards the depths of the mountains. He followed Ji Ke all the way into the depths of the mountains and saw Ji Ke ascending Kuanwu mountain range and entering Kuanwu Palace. Ji Tianqing stayed outside Kuanwu Palace and watched as Ji Ke entered Kuanwu Palace. He instantly frowned in confusion. He also did not know why Ji Ke entered Kuanwu Palace. After waiting patiently for an hour, he saw Ji Ke and a young man walking out side by side. That young man was wearing a white fox fur coat. He was tall and sturdy with a handsome face. He was Emperor Kuanwu. After both of them left Kuanwu Palace, they rode on a spiritual bird and flew towards the exit of the emperor residence. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing frowned and thought to himself, "Why is Ke looking for Kuanwu? Where is she going with Kuanwu?" By now, he could already confirm that Ji Ke was lying. Ji Ke was definitely not returning to Qingyun Kingdom. He secretly followed Ji Ke and Kuanwu. While secretly observing, he silently guessed Ji Ke's intentions. Ke is so close to Kuanwu and deliberately hid it from me. What is she trying to do? Could it be, she deliberately got close to Kuanwu to help me borrow the ice dragon hammer? Ji Tianqing roughly guessed Ji Ke's motive and became even more worried. The ice dragon hammer is the demon clan's treasure. Even if Kuanwu is the demon clan's prince, he will not lend it to her just like that. Ke must have agreed to Kuanwu's conditions. This silly girl. She's so naive and doesn't even have the slightest bit of vigilance. She'll definitely suffer. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing quickly sped up and streaked across the sky like a shooting star. He caught up with Kuanwu's flying spirit beast. Shwa! With a flash of golden light, Ji Tianqing rushed in front of the flying spiritual birds, blocking Kuanwu and Ji Ke. Kuanwu and Ji Ke stood on the back of the flying spirit bird and were discussing something in a low voice. Ji Tianqing's sudden appearance caught Kuanwu and Ji Ke by surprise. Kunwu hurriedly stopped the spiritual bird and floated in the sky 100 meters away from Ji Tianqing. Ji Ke's expression changed when he saw Ji Tianqing. It was as if she had been caught doing something wrong. Her gaze was a little evasive, not daring to look directly at Ji Tianqing. Shwa! Ji Tianqing's figure flashed across 100 meters and landed on the back of the flying spirit bird. He stood in front of Kuanwu and Ji Ke. He ignored Kuanwu and fixed his eyes on Ji Ke. With a complicated tone, he asked, "Ke, where are you going behind my back with Kuanwu? Why did you lie to me and say that you're going back to Qingyun Kingdom? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Brother Tianqing, don't be angry, Ji Ke's fingers were intertwined. She lowered her head with an ugly expression, not knowing how to explain. Seeing this scene, Kuanwu's eyes flashed with a look of realization. She suddenly understood something. He glanced at Ji Ku and looked at Ji Tianqing. He chuckled and said, "It seems that I'm right. Ku did this to help you." Ji Tianqing frowned and quickly stood in front of Ji Ku. He stared coldly at Kun Wu and asked in a deep voice, "Kun Wu, what are you trying to do? Where are you taking Ku?" Kun Wu smiled and said calmly, "Ji Tianqing, no matter what you're guessing, I'm upright and upright. There's nothing I can't say. I might as well tell you the truth. I'm taking Ji Ku back to the demon race." Ji Tianqing instantly looked doubtful and vigilant. He frowned and asked, "Back to the demon race? Why are you taking Ku back to the demon race?" Kun Wu shook her head and said expressionlessly, "I'm sorry, this is our business. I have no comment." Ji Tianqing narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, "Kun Wu, Ku has a pure heart. You'd better not play any tricks on her. Otherwise, I'll—" Before he could finish, Ji Ku quickly grabbed his arm and said in a sincere tone, "Brother Tianqing, Her Highness Kun Wu doesn't seem like a bad person. She didn't do anything bad to me. Don't worry, I'll be fine." Ji Tianqing turned his head and looked at Ji Ku beside him. He said firmly, Ku, you trust others too easily. No matter what, I won't let you go back to the demon race with him." Ji Ku immediately looked anxious and shook her head. "Brother Tianqing, this is our only chance. Please believe in Kun Wu and believe in me this once, okay?" Ji Tianqing stared into her eyes and asked in a serious tone, Ku, tell me the truth. Did you promise Kun Wu to go back to the demon race with him to help me borrow the ice dragon hammer? Ji Ku pursed her lips. After a moment of silence, she nodded silently. Ji Tianqing stretched out his hands and pressed on her shoulders. He persuaded her patiently, Ku, I know you want to help me borrow the ice dragon hammer and help me solve my problem. However, I won't let you take the risk and go to an unfamiliar demon race alone. You don't have to worry about the ice dragon hammer. I'll think of another way. Ji Ku's eyes became more and more anxious. She said in a pleading tone, Brother Tianqing, please let me help you this once, okay? I don't want to see you anxious and worried about this. Kun Wu stood at the side and watched the two of them comfort each other. However, he couldn't come to a conclusion. Therefore, he looked at Ji Tianqing with a serious expression and said, Ji Tianqing, although you don't believe in me, I have no ill intentions towards Ku. I won't hurt her. If you're really worried about Ku, you can come with us to the demon race's imperial court. Hearing Kun Wu's words, Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku immediately stopped talking. Ji Tianqing took a deep look at Kun Wu, then nodded without hesitation. Okay. I'll go with you to the demon race. I can only be at ease if I'm by Ku's side. Kun Wu nodded slightly and said calmly, Ji Tianqing, I have something to tell you in advance. You're not a member of my race. After going to our demon race, you can't interfere with our demon race's matters. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, Of course I understand the rules. However, it's a long journey from here to the demon race's imperial court. A round trip will take at least 10 days to half a month. Wait for me here for a moment. I have to go back to Tianqing Palace to make some arrangements before I can go with you. Kun Wu waved his hand and said with a smile, There's no need to go through so much trouble. I have a magic treasure called the Mother-Child Soaring Shuttle. It can go back and forth between Zhongzhou and the Imperial Court in a day. Chapter 666. Although Kun Wu had only briefly explained the effects of the Mother-Child Soaring Shuttle. However, Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku both revealed astonished expressions. It would take at least half a month to travel from Central State to the Imperial Court of the monster race. The two of them didn't dare to believe that there was such a miraculous magic treasure like the Mother-Child Soaring Shuttle that could travel back and forth in a single day. This was simply a miracle. Since the mother-child soaring shuttle had the ability to travel through space, Ji Tianqing didn't have any misgivings and didn't need to return to Tianqing Palace to make arrangements. He followed Kun Wu and Ji Ku out of the monarch mansion and returned to Central State City. The spirit birds carried them through Central State City and flew to the Star Moon Mountain in the western outskirts. At the peak of the Star Moon Mountain stood a magnificent manor with a radius of 10 miles. It was Kun Wu's temporary residence, the Star Moon Manor. There were several magnificent palaces in the manor, as well as rows upon rows of buildings and magnificent pavilions. Kun Wu brought Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku into the Star Moon Manor and walked towards the depths of the manor. The three of them met many guards and maids along the way. Everyone bowed and paid their respects to them. After a while, Kun Wu brought Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku into the secret room where he usually cultivated in seclusion. This secret room was very spacious and the construction was quite exquisite and luxurious. It was unknown how many precious gems and materials were used. The secret room was filled with rich spiritual energy and was protected by a powerful formation. Wait a moment. This sovereign will use the mother-child soaring shuttle to open the space passage. Kun Wu warned Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku before taking out the mother-child soaring shuttle from his spatial ring. This magic treasure was a palm-sized silver shuttle. The two ends were tapered and the middle was like a cylinder. The surface of the shuttle was covered with simple diamond-shaped patterns. It flickered with a faint white light and emitted a mysterious and vast aura. Ji Tianqing could clearly sense that the grade and power of this magic treasure was not inferior to his seal of mountains and rivers. The silver shuttle quietly floated in the air, motionless. Kun Wu waved his palms and sent out waves of majestic true essence into the silver shuttle. As he used the secret technique, the silver shuttle immediately spun and emitted a dazzling white light. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The mother-child soaring shuttle's speed became faster and faster and the white light became more and more dazzling, illuminating the entire secret room. About a quarter of an hour later, the dazzling white light condensed into a 3-meter-tall white light door, standing in the middle of the secret room. Kun Wu finished casting the spell and slowly withdrew his palms. He said with a calm expression, "All right, we can go now." Surprise flashed through Ji Tianqing's eyes. He couldn't help but ask, "You're done so quickly? Is this portal really connected to the monstrous imperial court?" Kun Wu saw that he and Ji Ku were in disbelief, so he explained with a smile, "That's right. Every time I go back and forth between the imperial court and the central state, I use this portal. The mother-child soaring shuttle is divided into the sun shuttle and the mother shuttle. The one in my hand is the sun shuttle, and the mother shuttle is fixed in my clan's imperial court, forming a teleportation array. After I use the sun shuttle to open the portal, I can open a space passage to the mother shuttle. No matter where the sun shuttle is on the continent, as long as I open the portal, I can quickly return to my clan's imperial court. When we leave the demon imperial court, we just need to cross the mother shuttle's teleportation array to return here." After listening to Kun Wu's explanation, Ji Tianqing immediately understood. He nodded and praised sincerely, "It's really an extraordinary magic treasure. It's unbelievable." Kun Wu smiled and did not say anything. Then, he stepped into the portal first. Swoosh! The portal flashed with white light and instantly swallowed Kun Wu's figure. Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku did not hesitate and stepped into the portal. Swoosh swoosh! The two only felt the scene in front of them suddenly change. The next moment, they appeared on an empty high platform. This high platform was 1,000 feet above the ground and was located in the thick white clouds. It was surrounded by a white sea of clouds. The ground of the high platform was paved with dark green boulders and inlaid with some silver crystals. Countless ancient patterns and array patterns were engraved on it. The entire high platform was a huge teleportation array. In the middle of the high platform stood a huge teleportation gate that was 100 feet tall. It was condensed from white light. Ji Tianqing stared at the teleportation gate for a moment and guessed that it was the teleportation gate formed by the mother shuttle. And this high platform was definitely in the Demon Imperial Court. He looked around and saw that in the four corners of the high platform, there were dozens of demon clan guards wearing armor and holding spears and halberds. In the sea of clouds around the high platform, one could vaguely see splendid palaces and rows upon rows of houses. Those palaces and houses were built beautifully and luxuriously. They also contained the unique charm of the demon clan. In the sea of clouds not far away, groups of winged men guards could be faintly seen flying past, patrolling and cruising. It was early in the morning. Golden sunlight shone down from the sky and reflected in the sea of clouds, causing the sea of clouds and palaces to shine with multicolored light. It was like a fairyland. It was the first time Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku had come to the demon clan. The two of them looked at the scene around them and felt that it was like a dream. It was amazing. At this moment, Kun Wu looked at the two of them and said with a calm expression, "Welcome to the Demon Imperial Court. This is the teleportation array built by the sky-soaring mother shuttle. It's called the Sky-Soaring Tower. When we return to Zhongzhou, we will leave from here. Now, please follow me into the Imperial Court." With that, Kun Wu led the two of them away from the high platform and walked down the Sky-Soaring Tower. When the demon clan guards around the Sky-Soaring Tower saw Kun Wu, they immediately bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Your Highness Kun Wu." Kun Wu's expression was indifferent, and his body exuded a majestic aura. He led Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku into the Imperial Court. It was only now that Ji Tianqing saw clearly that the layout and location of the Demon Imperial Court was very similar to the Human Imperial Court. The Demon Imperial Court was also built on a towering mountain peak that was tens of thousands of feet high. It covered an area of more than 100 miles. There were more than 20 palaces and thousands of houses and houses. Those palaces and houses were arranged according to a special array. They could gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and resonate with the stars in the sky, accumulating strong luck for the demon clan. The difference between the two was that the palaces and houses of the Demon Imperial Court were mostly in the style of hexagonal cornices. They were painted with colorful patterns and patterns. On both sides of every avenue in the Imperial Court, there would be statues erected one after another. Chapter 667. Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku were in the Demon Imperial Court. They could feel the ancient and majestic aura as well as the roughness and wildness unique to the demon race. The two of them followed Kun Wu into the depths of the Imperial Court, admiring the scenery as they walked. 15 minutes later, Kun Wu led the two of them into the Eastern Palace and arranged a place for them to stay for the time being. The Eastern Palace was Kun Wu's bedroom and also the residence of the Crown Prince. Although the demon race had several demon emperors, the one in charge of the Imperial Court was the famous Heavenly Net Demon Emperor. Kun Wu was the eldest son of the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and also the heir to the Demon Imperial Court. His status was equivalent to that of the Emperor of the Human Imperial Court. Furthermore, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor only married an empress and didn't take in many concubines. He didn't have many children like the Human Imperial Emperors. He only had one prince, Kun Wu. As long as there were no accidents, Kun Wu would inherit the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's throne many years later and control the Demon Imperial Court. Therefore, Kun Wu's status in the demon race was extremely high and he was deeply respected by all the demon race in the Imperial Court. As soon as he returned to the Eastern Palace, many demon race generals and experts rushed to the Eastern Palace for an audience. Kun Wu exchanged a few pleasantries with the generals and experts before sending them away. After arranging accommodations for Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku, he said to the two of them, "Stay here first. This monarch has just returned to the Imperial Court, so I'm going to pay my respects to the Demon Emperor and Mother. If the Demon Emperor isn't in seclusion, I will report this matter to him and ask him to make a decision." When the time comes, I will bring you to meet the Demon Emperor. Ji Tianxing and Ji Kun nodded in agreement and returned to their rooms to rest. Kun Wu left the Eastern Palace and rushed to the Imperial Court's main hall. Coincidentally, the Demon Emperor wasn't in seclusion. He was currently in the main hall discussing important matters with the demon race's officials and generals. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor wore a golden-scaled robe and a limitless golden crown. He sat on the Demon Emperor's throne with a posture of a tiger crouching and dragon coiling. He was tall and his face was resolute and dignified. His deep eyes contained a domineering aura that looked down on the world. His appearance was 80% similar to Kun Wu's. To be exact, Kun Wu's handsome appearance was inherited from him. However, both father and son had different temperaments. Kun Wu was a flood dragon that flew out of the sea and into the sky. Its aura was fierce and overbearing, showing off its ability. On the other hand, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor was a divine dragon that dominated the 9 heavens. He looked down on all living beings in the world and held millions of miles of land in his hands. His aura was even deeper and heavier, like the abyss and the sea. Kun Wu strode into the main hall with a majestic gait. He walked straight to the center of the main hall and greeted the Demon Emperor. "Greetings, Your Majesty. Your son pays his respects to Your Majesty." The Demon Emperor and the generals immediately stopped their discussion and looked at Kun Wu in unison. The officials and generals all smiled kindly and began to discuss in low voices. Isn't His Highness Kun Wu in the Monarch Mansion? Why are you back today? It's been a few months since we last met. Your Highness Kun Wu's aura has become even more tyrannical. It seems that your strength has also improved. His Highness Kun Wu is back at the right time. He might have a good suggestion for this matter. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor stroked his beard and smiled with relief. He nodded slightly and said, "Kun Wu, you may rise. Why did you suddenly return to the Imperial Court today instead of cultivating in the Monarch Mansion?" Kun Wu cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, I have been investigating an extremely important matter. Recently, I finally found a clue and was about to find out the results. I hurriedly rushed back to report to Your Majesty." When the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor heard this, he raised his eyebrows and revealed an interested expression. "Oh. What are you investigating?" Kun Wu was stunned. He looked at the officials and generals in the Imperial Court and cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, please allow me to report this matter to you later." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the generals in the main hall immediately understood what Kun Wu meant. They knew that this matter was not suitable to be mentioned in public. Thus, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded and said seriously, "In that case, let's continue with the morning court and discuss how to deal with the ancient Demon Emperor and the demon race." The officials and generals continued to discuss how to deal with the ancient Demon Emperor and the restless demon race. Kun Wu stood among the officials and quietly listened to everyone's discussion. Soon, he understood the meaning of this morning court session. It turned out that the Imperial Court of the demon race had received news that the ancient Demon Emperor had returned to the northern desert. According to the information obtained by the Imperial Court, the ancient Demon Emperor was currently hiding in the northern desert to recuperate and recover his strength. Although the ancient Demon Emperor had not made any moves yet. Based on the demon race's understanding of the demon race, they concluded that the ancient Demon Emperor would definitely go on a killing spree after recovering his strength. For the past 1,000 years, the demon race had been without a leader. They were like a pile of loose sand and did not amount to much. And the ancient Demon Emperor was the demon lord that all the demon race in the world bowed to. After he returned to the northern desert, all the demon race's morale was boosted. Almost all the demon race thought that the ancient Demon Emperor's return to the northern desert meant that the demon race was about to rise again. The various demon tribes had been suppressed for thousands of years and finally could not hold back their bloodlust and killing. They became restless and began to harass the western wilderness border frequently. In the past few months, more than 10 demon race cities at the western wilderness border had been attacked and killed by the demon tribes. Hundreds of demon race citizens in villages and towns were cruelly massacred by the demon race. Many mines, herb gardens, beast gardens, and other cultivation resources were also crazily plundered by the demon tribes. The flames of war came frequently from the western wilderness border. The various demon race leaders all advised the imperial court to send reinforcements to defend against the demon race's attacks. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor gathered the officials and generals today to discuss how to deal with the demon race's attacks and prevent the ancient demon emperor from starting a war after he recovered his strength. Kun Wu listened silently for an hour and realized that most of the generals and officials had the same idea as him. Since the demon race dared to invade the western wilderness and kill the demon race citizens, what was there to hesitate about? Even if the demon race had to use up all their manpower and resources, they had to fight to the death against the demon race army. Even if the 1 billion demon race citizens died in battle and blood dyed the mountains and rivers, the demon race would not back down. Since ancient times, the demon race had been the most oppressed and harmed by the demon race. They had an irreconcilable blood feud with the demon race that could not be resolved. Many of the generals were fired up and filled with fighting spirit. They all requested the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor to lead the troops to protect the western wilderness border. Seeing this, Kun Wu was relieved and did not say anything. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor thought deeply and issued a series of orders. He sent out 12 brave and fierce generals to lead the troops to the border to defend the demon race. After 2 hours, the morning assembly finally ended. Chapter 668. The Heavenly Net Palace was the bedroom of the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Demon Empress. The palace was grand and majestic. The scenery in the palace was pleasant and filled with spirit energy. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor brought Kunwu into the Heavenly Net Palace and said, "Kunwu, you're back today. You haven't paid your respects to your mother yet, right?" Kunwu followed behind the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and replied respectfully, "Father, I've just returned to the imperial court and haven't paid my respects to my mother yet. It just so happens that I have something important to tell Imperial Mother as well." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded and said earnestly, "Kunwu, now that the ancient Demon Emperor has returned to the northern desert, I'm afraid he'll bring chaos to the world soon. Our demon race is about to face the invasion of the demon army, and there will be bloodshed in the future. You must cultivate hard in the Emperor Mansion and strive to reach the soul refinement realm as soon as possible. Only then can I be at ease." Kunwu understood the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's worries and said solemnly, "Father, don't worry. I won't let you down." The father and son chatted as they walked. Soon, they entered the depths of the Heavenly Net Palace and came to a spacious and bright hall. After the two of them took their seats, an obedient and witty demon clan maid came forward to greet them and serve them tea and snacks. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor ordered the maid, "Go and invite the Demon Empress to the Demon Empress Palace. Tell her that Prince Kunwu is back." "Yes." The maid bowed and accepted the order. She hurriedly left to report the news. In the bedroom of the palace, there was a demonic woman of peerless beauty. She was sitting cross-legged on a large bed surrounded by gauze curtains. This demon lady in a moon-white dress looked to be in her 30s. She had lost her youthful temperament and exuded a graceful and noble aura. She had a slim figure and a beautiful face. She had long silver hair that reached her waist and a diamond-shaped silver mark on her forehead. Without a doubt, she was Kunwu's mother, Demon Empress Lingxing. Lingxing Demon Empress was meditating and cultivating. Her palms were placed in front of her, and bright starlight flickered in her palms. Her entire body was surrounded by an invisible divine soul power. At this moment, a maid walked to the door, bowed respectfully, and reported softly, "Lady Spirit Star, His Majesty the Demon Emperor and His Highness Kunwu are waiting for you in the main hall." Lingxing Demon Empress immediately stopped her cultivation and opened a pair of bright eyes. Her silver eyes were filled with gentleness. "My son Kunwu is back." Spirit Star Demon Empress flicked the sleeves of her long dress and got off the bed. She walked out of the bedroom in a graceful and dignified manner and walked towards the grand hall with her maidservant. Empress 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 Press Empress Press Press Empress 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 Empress. Seeing Lingxing Demon Empress, he quickly stood up and bowed. He smiled and said, "Mother, I'm here to greet you." Lingxing Demon Empress revealed a kind and amiable look. She nodded and said, "Kunwu, you just came back a few months ago. Even if you miss mother and father, you can't delay your cultivation." Kunwu shook his head and explained with a smile, "Mother, I came back this time because I have something important to report to you and father." "Oh. What is it?" Lingxing Demon Empress revealed a curious and expectant look. Kunwu waved his hand and dismissed all the maids and guards in the hall. Lingxing Demon Empress was even more confused when she saw this. She couldn't help but ask, "Kunwu, what's so mysterious?" As she spoke, she walked to Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's side and sat down. She extended her slender hand and released starlight to massage Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's left shoulder. Back then, Heavenly Net Demon Emperor fought with the water race experts in the Eastern Sea's sinkhole. He was severely injured and had a body full of hidden ailments. The hidden injury on his left shoulder had yet to recover. Lingxing Demon Empress cultivated her medical skills and had to heal Heavenly Net Demon Emperor every day to ease his pain. Heavenly Net Demon Emperor patted the back of her hand gently and held her hand. He indicated that she didn't need to heal today and wanted to hear what Kunwu had to say first. When there were no outsiders in the hall, Kunwu said in a low voice, "Father, Mother, when I was 7 years old, you left the imperial court and went to the Eastern Sea's sinkhole. When you came back, Mother was pregnant. You told me that it was my unborn sister, the demon race's little princess. We were so happy back then. I often talked to Mother's belly, thinking that I could chat with my sister." Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and Lingxing Demon Empress faces changed when they heard Kunwu's words. Their eyes were filled with deep sorrow. Lingxing Demon Empress' body trembled. She asked anxiously, "Kunwu, is the important thing you want to report related to your sister?" "That's right." Kunwu nodded and said seriously, "When my sister was born, I was sleeping soundly in my room and didn't know what happened. When I woke up the next day, I saw that the palace was in a mess. Later on, I found out that my sister had gone missing. I know that father and mother have been searching for my sister all these years and have never given up. I have also been secretly looking for her whereabouts." Kunwu paused for a moment. A gratified smile appeared on his handsome and resolute face. "Heaven has taken pity on me. I finally found some clues and made some progress. A few months ago, on the day I returned to Central State City, I saw a human girl in the crowd. She made me feel very close to her and there was an invisible blood connection." Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and Lingxing Demon Empress were delighted. They looked at each other and saw the excitement and surprise in each other's eyes. Lingxing Demon Empress was stunned. She quickly asked, "Kunwu, is that girl your sister? But why is she a human?" Kunwu quickly explained, "Mother, that girl had yet to awaken her demon race bloodline, so she was in human form. However, I have been in contact with her for the past few months. She has also awakened her bloodline and is a descendant of our golden raccoon race. Although I am 80% sure that she is the sister that I have never met, I didn't tell her. But I didn't tell her about it. I only recently convinced her to return to the imperial court with me. As long as father uses the heaven mirror to drip blood on her, he will be able to determine if she is my sister." Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and Lingxing Demon Empress became more and more excited. It was as if the huge stone that had been pressing on their hearts for many years had finally disappeared. Lingxing Demon Empress' eyes were filled with tears. She asked anxiously, "Kunwu, where is your sister? Quickly bring us to see her." Kunwa shook his head and said solemnly, "Mother, that girl is called Ji Ku. She is now living in the Eastern Palace. I can bring her to see you immediately. However, she is willing to come back with me because I promised her that I would help her borrow my race's ice dragon hammer. I know that the ice dragon hammer is my race's treasure and can't be borrowed easily. Therefore, I didn't agree to her request immediately." Chapter 669. Kun Wu's way of speaking was very skillful. He was well aware of his father and mother's feelings. After his sister had gone missing, they were heartbroken and blamed themselves. Therefore, Kun Wu spoke of Ji Ku's background first, indicating that she might be his missing sister. When the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress were excited and could not wait to see Ji Ku, he then spoke of borrowing the Ice Dragon Hammer. This way, the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress would only want to see Ji Ku as soon as possible and would not refuse to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. In Kun Wu's subconscious mind, he really wanted to help Ji Ku borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. Indeed, before he finished speaking, Spirit Star Demon Empress quickly said, "Kun Wu, if she is really your sister, not to mention borrowing the Ice Dragon Hammer, what's wrong with giving it to her?" In the eyes of Spirit Star Demon Empress, no matter how precious the Ice Dragon Hammer was, how could it be more important than her daughter? On the other hand, Heavenly Net Demon Emperor, who had not spoken, was more cautious in this matter and could still remain calm. He lightly squeezed Spirit Star Demon Empress' hand and said with a calm tone, "Spirit Star, you don't have to be so absolute. Kun Wu also said that girl might be our daughter. We have to see her first and do a blood test before we can confirm her identity." Spirit Star Demon Empress turned to look at Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and frowned with anger. She said with a low voice, "Husband, what is with your attitude? Kun Wu spent a lot of effort and finally found our daughter, are you not happy? Our daughter went missing when she was just born, it is already a miracle that she is still alive. She must have suffered a lot during these years of wandering outside. Now, the heavens have taken pity on us and sent her back to us. This is a blessing from the heavens. As long as our daughter can return to us, not to mention the Ice Dragon Hammer, even if she wants to borrow your Demon Sealing Divine Sword, I will not hesitate." The Demon Sealing Divine Sword was one of the top treasures of the Demon Clan. It was a primordial soul-level treasure and was known as a divine weapon in the Tian Xian land. Most importantly, the Demon Sealing Divine Sword was the Emperor's sword passed down from generation to generation in the Demon Imperial Court. Only the Demon Emperor who ruled the Imperial Court could wear and use it. With the Demon Sealing Godly Sword in hand, one could command all the demons in the world. It was the supreme holy artifact of the demon race. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor understood Ling Xing's feelings, but when he heard her words, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head helplessly. He held on to Demon Empress Ling Xing's hand and revealed a doting expression. He comforted her gently, "Ling Xing, after my daughter went missing, I have been blaming myself. If the girl Kunwu brought back is really our daughter, of course I would be happier than anyone else. However, this matter is of great importance. Our daughter's identity is extraordinary, you know that." Hearing his words, the Spirit Star Demon Empress' body stiffened. She seemed to have recalled something, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. She then whispered, "Husband, I was too agitated." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded with a gentle expression. He turned to Kun Wu and solemnly said, "Kun Wu, go and bring that girl over. Let Imperial Father and Imperial Mother have a look. If she really is our daughter, Royal Father will definitely lend her the Ice Dragon Hammer. If she is not your sister, Royal Father will have to reconsider this matter." Kun Wu smiled and nodded. He cupped his hands and bowed. "Imperial Father and Imperial Mother, please wait for a moment. I will bring her over now." With that, Kun Wu turned and left the main hall. After walking out of the main hall, he rushed back to the East Palace and found Ji Ku. Ji Ku and Ji Tianqing were sitting in the study room and talking softly. They were analyzing and guessing Kuan Wu's motive. After Kuan Wu entered the study room, he smiled and said, "Ku, our luck is not bad. His Majesty the Demon Emperor is not in seclusion. He is waiting to see you in the Heavenly Net Palace. Let's go. I will bring you to the Heavenly Net Palace now to meet the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress." Hearing this, Ji Ku instantly revealed a look of anticipation. He asked, "Your Highness Kuan Wu, have you already told His Majesty the Demon Emperor about borrowing the Ice Dragon Hammer? What did His Majesty say?" Kuan Wu nodded and said, "I have already told him. His Majesty the Demon Emperor did not reject. There is a high chance of success. However, you have to follow me to the Heavenly Net Palace first and meet them face to face." When Ji Ku heard the words, "a high chance of success," his eyes instantly revealed a look of joy and hope. He quickly got up and was about to leave with Kuan Wu. "I will go with you." Ji Tianqing also stood up and followed closely beside Ji Ku. Kuan Wu turned to look at him. He hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. After a while, Kuan Wu brought Ji Ku and Ji Tianqing into the main hall of the Heavenly Net Palace. When Ji Ku entered the main hall, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and Spirit Star Demon Empress, who were sitting in the main hall, immediately stared at him. They sized him up excitedly. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor could still maintain his composure. However, the Spirit Star Demon Empress had already pursed her lips. Her eyes were filled with tears again. Kuan Wu brought Ji Ku to the middle of the main hall and bowed to the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress. Ji Ku imitated his actions and bowed respectfully. "My daughter Ji Ku greets Your Majesty the Demon Emperor." "Greetings Your Majesty the Demon Empress." The Spirit Star Demon Empress quickly raised her hand and used an invisible force to support Ji Ku. She said gently, "Child, quickly rise." Ji Ku was a little flattered. His heart was filled with confusion. He did not understand why the Demon Empress was so close to him. At this moment, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor said, "Ji Ku, Kuan Wu has already told me about your background. I believe you also know that you are not a human. You are a descendant of the Golden Raccoon race." Ji Ku had already expected this. Hence, he was not surprised. His expression was still calm and composed. She secretly circulated her skills and removed her disguise. She revealed her true appearance as a member of the Golden Raccoon race. Instantly, her hands turned into little furry claws. A pair of cute little ears grew out from her temples. There was even a furry tail behind her. When the Spirit Star Demon Empress saw her true appearance, her body trembled. Her eyes were filled with deep admiration. She was 70% to 80% sure that Ji Ku was her long-lost daughter. After all, her divine soul could sense that Ji Ku had a kinship with her. Blood was thicker than water. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's divine soul also sensed Ji Ku's aura. He could not help but feel excited. He continued, "Ji Ku, I will talk to you later about your request to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. Now, I want to tell you about a past event. 16 years ago, I had a son with the Demon Empress. His name was Kuan Wu. He was already 7 years old then. That year, I went to the Eastern Sea's sinkhole with the Demon Empress to fight the Dragon Race's experts. We wandered around the sinkhole for half a year. During this time, the Demon Empress became pregnant again. It was a girl. She was also the future princess of my race." Ji Ku did not understand why the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor wanted to talk about this. However, she stood respectfully in the hall and listened quietly. Ji Tianqing stood quietly at the side. When he heard the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's story, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He vaguely guessed something. Chapter 670. Ji Tianqing thought of a possibility and was suddenly enlightened. If Cuckoo is really the Demon King and Demon Queen's daughter, then she is the princess of the Demon Clan and Kuan Wu's younger sister. No wonder Kuan Wu often came to find Cuckoo and cared for her so much. No wonder he was willing to help Cuckoo borrow the Ice Dragon hammer and bring her back to the Demon Imperial Court. I really didn't expect Cuckoo's background to be so strange. After a while, the Heavenly Net Demon King roughly recounted the events of that year. No matter how naive Ji Ku was, she still felt that something was amiss with hindsight. She looked a little terrified and revealed a look of disbelief. She asked the Heavenly Net Demon King, "Your Majesty, do you mean I have something to do with your missing daughter?" The Heavenly Net Demon King nodded and said in a serious tone, "Ji Ku, I am 80% sure that you are our daughter." Hearing this, Ji Ku was instantly stunned and revealed a look of disbelief. Ah! How is this possible? Her heart was immediately in a mess. She was at a loss and her emotions were extremely complicated. She raised her head and looked at the Heavenly Net Demon King and Lingxing Demon Queen, then turned to look at Kuan Wu. The three of them nodded at her and even revealed a warm and amiable smile. Seeing their reactions, Ji Ku became even more anxious and uneasy. She didn't know what to do and didn't know what to say. She turned her head to look at Ji Tianqing, who was beside her, and saw that Ji Tianqing was also looking at her with an encouraging gaze. That gaze seemed to have given her great courage and gradually calmed her down. She bowed to the Heavenly Net Demon King and said calmly, "Your Majesty, please forgive me for speaking bluntly. This is only your speculation and can't be confirmed. When I found out about my background, I returned to the Qingyun Kingdom in the Tianshan region and asked my father for confirmation. My father gave me a pendant and said that it was the accessory I was wearing when he found me. Perhaps it has something to do with my background." After saying that, Ji Ku took out a dark gold pendant from his spatial ring. This pendant was a delicate and nimble golden lock, strung together by a silver bead chain, exuding a mysterious and simple aura. When the Heaven Net Demon Emperor and the Spirit Star Demon Empress saw the golden lock, their eyes widened in surprise. The Spirit Star Demon Empress extended her hand and took the golden lock into her palm. She held the golden lock and carefully observed it for a moment. Her expression became more and more excited. She reached out and gently stroked the golden lock and the beaded chain. Clear tears gushed out of her eyes. "That's it. It's this longevity lock that your father personally refined for you. Child, on the night you were born, it was your mother who strung the longevity lock together with the heavenly star chain and put it on your body." Seeing the longevity lock and the heavenly star chain, Spirit Star Demon Empress no longer had any misgivings. She was very sure that Ji Ku was her daughter. She walked in front of Ji Ku with tears in her eyes. She opened her arms and hugged Ji Ku. She used her face to rub Ji Ku's long hair and sobbed softly. "Child, my poor child. After 16 years, your mother has finally found you. Thank the heavens for their blessings and returning our daughter to us." Spirit Star Demon Empress had mixed feelings. Her tears flowed uncontrollably. She was both emotional and happy. Ji Ku was still in her embrace. She was still not used to this sudden motherly love. Her body was a little stiff, and she didn't know where to put her hands. Although Heaven Net Demon Emperor was the leader of the demon race, he was also gratified to see his daughter who had been missing for 16 years. His eyes were a little moist. No one knew how angry and pained he and Spirit Star Demon Empress were when Ji Ku went missing on the night she was born. However, he was still a super expert who had been through countless storms. His heart was as firm as a rock and was incomparably calm. Even though he was sure that Ji Ku was his long-lost daughter, he didn't lose his composure. He stood up and walked to the center of the hall. He came in front of Ji Ku and said in a low voice, "Child, although your father is sure that you are our daughter, this matter is very important. However, this matter is of great importance. Imperial Father will have to ask the heavenly mirror to perform a blood test as a final test. Ji Ku thought for a moment and probed, Your Majesty Demon Emperor, can you lend me the Ice Dragon Hammer after I drip my blood to confirm my relationship? Heaven Net Demon Emperor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly nodded and said, Silly child, you are my daughter. Why would I reject you? Only then did Ji Ku feel relieved and completely at ease. She turned to look at Ji Tianqing and revealed a gratified expression. Although she didn't say anything, Ji Tianqing could read her eyes. She was clearly saying, Big brother Tianqing, you can rest assured now. I finally helped you borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. Ji Tianqing's emotions were instantly complicated. He looked at her with a doting gaze and sighed in his heart. Sigh. Cuckoo, you silly girl. After a while, Heaven Net Demon Emperor got Kun Wu to personally bring the sky mirror. This mirror was a palm-sized dark green bronze mirror. It was simple and unadorned, and its edges had long been polished smooth. The edges of the bronze mirror were engraved with a hollow pattern. At the end of the mirror was a handle with ancient demon race ciphertext engraved on it. Although this bronze mirror looked unremarkable, it was a top-notch soul-grade Dharma treasure. It was comparable to the Ice Dragon Hammer and was also one of the demon race's rare treasures. This treasure could identify bloodlines and souls. It could also see the demon race's past and present lives. It could also move mountains and fill seas, summon the wind and rain, and communicate with heaven and earth. Heaven Net Demon Emperor held the sky mirror in his left hand and formed a seal with his right hand. He shot out a few streaks of five-colored spiritual light into the mirror. The mirror immediately emitted an invisible majestic energy. It lit up with a dazzling five-colored brilliance and became a halo. It was extremely dazzling. Heaven Net Demon Emperor channeled his energy again and forced out a drop of blood from his heart. He dripped it onto the mirror from the tip of his right index finger. His blood was like liquid gold. It emitted a dazzling golden light and an incomparably powerful spirit chi. The golden blood droplets fell on the mirror and were immediately absorbed by the mirror. They turned into pure golden smoke that rose in spirals and danced in the air like a small golden dragon. Heaven Net Demon Emperor looked at Ji Ku and said kindly, Child, come. Ji Ku pursed her lips and hesitated for a moment. She slowly stretched out her right hand and channeled her energy to force out a drop of blood from her heart. She dripped it onto the sky mirror. Although her cultivation was still shallow, the blood from her heart contained a trace of gold. It was very pure. The drop of blood was immediately absorbed by the sky mirror. It also turned into a weak golden dragon that spiraled in the air. The two golden dragons sensed each other's aura and immediately gathered together happily. In the blink of an eye, they became one and merged perfectly. Heaven Net Demon Emperor, Spirit Star Demon Empress, and Kun Wu were all excited when they saw this. Spirit Star Demon Empress tears fell like rain again. She hugged Ji Ku and cried. Chapter 671. The Divine Mirror showed that Ji Ku's bloodline was perfectly compatible with the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's. This proved that she was the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor's daughter. Ji Ku also understood this point. She was immediately stunned, and her expression and mood became extremely complicated. The Spirit Star Demon Empress hugged her and cried. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor also walked over and hugged her and the Spirit Star Demon Empress. Kun Wu was even more surprised. He revealed an excited smile and couldn't help but exclaim, Cuckoo, my intuition was right. You are indeed my little sister. At this moment, his temperament was no longer as cold and unruly as before. His eyes were actually a little red. The Demon Emperor's family hugged each other tightly. Their eyes were filled with tears. They were emotional. Fortunately, there were only the four of them and Ji Tianqing in the hall. There were no guards or maidservants present. If those guards and maidservants saw this, their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground from shock. Who would dare to believe that the incomparably noble, sacred, and dignified demon lord and demon empress would actually lose their composure like this? After all, the demon race placed more emphasis on blood ties and relationships than other races. Especially the heavenly net demon emperor and demon empress. They had accompanied each other for more than 200 years and were still incomparably loving. The heavenly net demon emperor was the leader of the demon race, but he didn't take in any concubines. He only doted on the spirit star demon empress. This was truly a pair for life. If the two of them had a son and a daughter, their lives would be complete and perfect. Back then, Ji Ku went missing on the night she was born. The demon emperor and demon empress were in great pain and tried their best to search for her for more than 10 years. Now that they had found their beloved daughter, how could they not lose their composure? When Ji Tianqing saw the demon emperor and his family hugging each other, he didn't feel strange or awkward at all. Instead, he felt a strong sense of familial love. Ji Ku was able to figure out her background, find her parents, and reunite with them. This was a joyous matter. Based on the demon emperor and demon empress attitude towards her, they would definitely dote on her and wouldn't let her suffer. In fact, the demon emperor and demon empress would even make it up to her and be more obedient to her. Ji Tianqing thought to himself that this should be the best ending for Ji Ku. He was happy and gratified for Ji Ku. In the future, with the demon emperor and demon empress taking care of Ji Ku, he didn't have to worry anymore. After a long while, everyone finally calmed down. The spirit star demon empress released her embrace and held Ji Ku's hand as she lowered her head and wiped her tears. Ji Ku wiped away the tears in his eyes and stared at the spirit star demon empress and the heavenly net demon emperor. He asked in a choked voice, "Demon emperor, demon empress." Hearing how she addressed them, the spirit star demon empress quickly extended her hand to interrupt her and said gently, "Silly child, you should call them Majesty Father and Majesty Mother in the future." Ji Ku pursed his lips and fell silent for a moment before continuing to ask, "Imperial Father, Imperial Mother, since you love me so much and have been searching for me for so many years, why did you abandon me back then? Leaving me stranded outside?" The spirit star demon empress quickly shook her head and explained in a painful tone, "Child, you are the apple of our eye, our most beloved daughter. How could we abandon you? When I gave birth to your brother, Kun Wu, your imperial father and I both wanted a daughter. If we could have both children, we would have no regrets in life. However, when I was pregnant with your brother, I had a huge battle with a devil race expert. My fetus was affected and my body was injured. After giving birth to your brother, I couldn't conceive for a full 7 years. Until that year, your imperial father and I went to the eastern seas returning ruins and coincidentally obtained the heavenly star chain. It was then that I was blessed by the heavens and finally got pregnant with you." The spirit star demon empress eyes revealed a look of reminiscence as she recounted the past in a low voice. When she mentioned the heavenly star chain, a strange look flashed across the heavenly net demon emperor's eyes. He quickly interrupted her and didn't let her continue. The heavenly net demon emperor took over the conversation and said earnestly to Ji Ku, "Child, when we found out that you were a girl, both imperial father and imperial mother were very happy. Your brother, Kun Wu, also pestered your imperial mother all day long. He wanted to talk to you through your belly and hoped that you would be born soon. On the night you were born, the imperial court was brightly lit and joyous. Everyone was waiting for your birth. However, not long after you were born that night, the sky changed color and the clouds became chaotic. Lightning and fire rained down from the sky. At that time, your imperial mother had just given birth to you. Her body was weak and she was in a coma. Imperial father was excited and happy. He was drinking with the officials and generals at the banquet. However, a mysterious purple-robed expert sneaked into the imperial court. While imperial father and imperial mother were unprepared, he killed the female official and wet nurse who were taking care of you and kidnapped you. Imperial father and Imperial mother sensed that something was amiss and desperately chased after that purple-robed expert, wanting to take you back. However, that damned bastard was very strong. Even Imperial father and Imperial mother weren't his match. When the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor said this, Ji Ku and Ji Tianqing basically understood what had happened. Without a doubt, Ji Ku wasn't abandoned by the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress. Instead, he was kidnapped by a mysterious expert. Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. Your Majesty, I heard that you have already reached the peak of the soul refinement realm and are a half-step essence soul realm expert. Since you and the Demon Empress couldn't defeat that mysterious expert, doesn't that mean that person's strength has reached the essence soul realm? In today's Tianxian continent, there are only a handful of essence soul realm experts. They are rare existences. You have been searching for Ji Ku all these years. Didn't you find out the identity of that mysterious expert? The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor looked at him deeply. He was obviously surprised by his quick thinking. Young man, you are right. There are only a few essence soul realm experts in the world today. I once suspected the human race's Imperial Emperor and another person, but I couldn't find any concrete evidence. Until now, I still can't confirm the identity of that mysterious expert. Ji Tianqing nodded and didn't say anything else. However, he could vaguely feel that Ji Ku's background was extraordinary. Perhaps she wasn't just a demon princess. Otherwise, Ji Ku wouldn't have been kidnapped by an essence soul realm expert on the night she was born. Later on, she wandered to the human race's Qingyun kingdom and was carried out of the river by a koi. At this moment, the Demon Empress saw that everyone was silent and the atmosphere was heavy. She smiled gently and said, "All right, let's talk about the past and the future. The heavens took pity on us and finally sent our daughter back to us. This is a huge surprise and also a gift from the heavens to our family." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded heavily and said in a serious tone, "Ku must have suffered a lot all these years. From today onwards, I will make it up to her and never let her suffer again." Chapter 672. Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku stayed in the Demon Imperial Court. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Spirit Star Demon Empress doted on Ji Ku and took good care of her. She felt the love and care from her family and gradually accepted her identity and adapted to the environment and life in the Imperial Court. Soon, a day passed. That night, the Demon Emperor held a banquet in the Heavenly Net Palace to welcome Ji Ku and Ji Tianqing. There were only 5 people at the banquet: the Demon Emperor and the Demon Empress, their family of 4, and Ji Tianqing. After the banquet ended, everyone sat in the main hall to drink tea and chat. Ji Ku mentioned to the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor that she wanted to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor agreed without hesitation. However, he still asked curiously, "Ku, why do you want to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer?" Ji Ku hesitated for a moment, considering whether to tell the truth or not. However, Ji Tianqing was magnanimous and immediately explained, "Your Majesty, Ku wants to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer to help me. I have encountered a troublesome problem and need the Ice Dragon Hammer's power to solve it." The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor had already expected this and turned to look at Ji Tianqing. Kuan-Wu had already introduced Ji Tianqing to him and he knew that Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku were like siblings and had a close relationship. Moreover, Ji Tianqing was the Emperor of the Monarch Residence, the #1 genius of the human race, and the Region Lord of the Tianshan region. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor had also heard of Ji Tianqing's achievements in the Middle State and his reputation and legends. Thus, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded and agreed. "Ji Tianqing, I will borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer tomorrow and teach you how to use it." Ji Tianqing quickly bowed and thanked him. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your help. I will definitely return it to you after using it." At this moment, Kuan-Wu said to the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor with a grave expression, Imperial Father, there's something I've wanted to report to you for a long time. There was a mysterious and powerful force hidden in Ku's soul. It would erupt from time to time and endanger her life. Previously, when we were in Central Continent City, your son could only think of a way to temporarily suppress it for her, but I was powerless to resolve this matter. Hearing this, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Spirit Star Demon Empress were stunned for a moment. Their eyes were filled with worry and pity. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor extended his right hand with a serious expression. He released a mysterious and powerful spiritual energy to check on Ji Ku's soul. A moment later, when he detected the mysterious power in Ji Ku's soul, a strange look flashed across his eyes. Spirit Star Demon Empress had been staring at him, and when she saw his reaction, she quickly transmitted a message and asked, "Husband, how is Ku's condition?" The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor exchanged a glance with her and sent a telepathic message, "Ling Xing, the mysterious power in Ku's soul is demonic power." It is that power. Surprise flashed across the Spirit Star Demon Empress' eyes. She quickly asked, "Husband, are you talking about the Heavenly Star Chain?" The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor nodded slightly and said with a surprised tone, "Spirit Star, the situation is just as we guessed back then. Our daughter's background is extraordinary. It is very likely that she is the reincarnation of an Almighty. If the power hidden in her soul can be completely refined and absorbed, she will definitely become a peerless prodigy of our clan. In the future, her achievements will be even greater than mine." Hearing his evaluation, the Spirit Star Demon Empress was even more shocked and delighted. At this moment, Wu saw the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress looking at each other and seemed to be secretly transmitting a message. She couldn't help but ask, "Father, Mother, how is Ku's condition? Can it be resolved?" Only then did the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and Spirit Star Demon Empress stop transmitting a message. Their expressions returned to normal. The Heavenly Net Demon Emperor stroked his beard and nodded calmly. "Wu, you don't have to worry too much. Of course, Father can resolve Ku's predicament. However, this problem is a little tricky. It might take a long time." Hearing the Demon Emperor's words, Wu, Ji Ku, and Ji Tianqing finally heaved a sigh of relief. The Demon Emperor and Demon Empress were powerful soul refinement experts with remarkable abilities. They were also the masters of the Demon Imperial Court. They controlled the entire demon race's power and resources. Although Ji Ku's situation was very complicated, they still had a way to deal with it. However, Ji Ku's problem couldn't be solved overnight. She had to stay in the Demon Imperial Court for a long time. Under the care of the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress, she had to slowly refine the mysterious power hidden in her soul. Thinking about this problem, Ji Ku was a little hesitant and didn't agree for the time being. Ji Tianqing could tell what she was thinking. He smiled and comforted her. "Ku, you can stay in the Imperial Court with peace of mind. Let His Majesty the Demon Emperor help you refine that power. Don't worry. Once I'm done, I will come back to visit you. Furthermore, once your problem is completely resolved, you can return to the central region whenever you want." Hearing his words, Ji Ku nodded and agreed. When the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress saw this, they couldn't help but look at Ji Tianqing again. They felt a trace of gratitude towards him. Moreover, Ji Ku might not listen to their advice, but she listened to Ji Tianqing's words. This also made them understand how important Ji Tianqing was to Ji Ku. The night passed quickly. Early the next morning, the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor asked for the Ice Dragon Hammer. He lent it to Ji Tianqing and taught him how to use it. Ji Tianqing solemnly put away the Ice Dragon Hammer and cultivated in the secret room for an entire day. He thoroughly comprehended the Ice Dragon Hammer's control technique. Every soul-grade magic treasure had a corresponding control technique. Ji Tianqing could only unleash the true power of the Ice Dragon Hammer after mastering the Ice Dragon art. On the third day, the Imperial Court held a grand coronation ceremony. The Demon Emperor, Demon Empress, and Prince Kun Wu led hundreds of officials and generals to hold a ceremony on the altar. They crowned Ji Ku in front of everyone and conferred her the title of princess. From now on, Ji Ku was the little princess of the demon imperial court. She was one of the most honorable people. Furthermore, the imperial court had already announced the heavenly net demon emperor's edict. It would soon spread throughout the entire western wilderness. On the fourth morning, Ji Tianqing was about to leave the imperial court and return to the central region. Kun Wu and Ji Ku sent him to the sky-fleeing tower and waved goodbye to him. Ji Ku knew that after parting with Ji Tianqing, she didn't know how long she would have to wait before seeing him again. She was a little depressed and sad. She looked at Ji Tianqing reluctantly and tearfully reminded him. Big brother Tianqing, after you return to the central region, you must be careful. Don't be reckless. If you have any difficulties, tell us. We will help you think of a solution. Don't take on everything by yourself. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. He also reminded her, Cuckoo, stay in the imperial court and cultivate in peace. Solve the hidden danger in your soul as soon as possible. I believe that you will be able to reunite with us in the central region soon. After saying that, he looked at Kun Wu and cupped his hands with a sincere expression. He said, Your Highness Kun Wu, please take care of Cuckoo. I believe you will not let her suffer, right? Chapter 673. Under the watchful eyes of Kun Wu and Ji Ku, Ji Tianqing stepped into the portal on the sky-fleeing tower. Swoosh! A dazzling white light flashed and swallowed his figure. In the next moment, he crossed 100,000 miles and returned to the secret chamber in the Star Moon Manor. The secret chamber was as dark as ever, flickering with colorful spiritual light. There were also several elite guards guarding it. When the guards saw Ji Tianqing, they hurriedly bowed to greet him. One of them led him out of the secret chamber, through many corridors and palaces, and arrived at the gate of the Star Moon Manor. Ji Tianqing left the Star Moon Manor and returned to Zhongzhou City as fast as lightning. 2 hours later, he returned to the Tianqing Palace in the Monarch Mansion. He sat on the throne in the main hall and listened to the guard captain report to him. After listening, he found out that Yan was still in seclusion in the secret chamber to heal her injuries. Yunyao had come to the Tianqing Palace once before and left when she learned that he was not in the palace. Ji Tianqing waved his hand to signal the guard captain to leave. Then, he got up and left the main hall, flying to Yunyao Palace. An hour later, he entered Yunyao Palace and saw Yunyao meditating and cultivating. Yunyao was relieved to see that he had returned safe and sound. She quickly led him into the secret chamber to talk. After the two of them entered the secret chamber and sat down, Yunyao asked in a concerned tone, Tianqing, where have you been these days? You haven't done anything to the Duanmu family's herb garden, have you? Ji Tianqing nodded and asked with some doubt, I went to the demon imperial court these days and haven't started my operation yet. Yao, what happened? Did the situation in the Duanmu family's herb garden change? Yunyao frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, I know that you are going to start your operation soon, so I sent several commanders of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion to carefully investigate the situation in the herb garden. In the past 2 to 3 years, the Duanmu family's protection of the herb garden has become more and more strict. Other than the strange ancient beasts guarding the herb garden, the number of herb garden guards had also more than doubled. Besides, the Duanmu clan has a few extra guards. They are all level 5 or 6 sky origin stage cultivators. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The defensive power of the herb garden had doubled, doubling the difficulty of his movements. It was indeed a troublesome matter. Fortunately, Yunyao had sent a spy to investigate in advance. Otherwise, he would most likely be at a disadvantage if he acted rashly. At this moment, Yunyao asked again, by the way, Tianqing, why are you going to the demon imperial court? I asked Senior Beast King, and he said that the demon race's magic treasure, Ice Dragon Hammer, can restrain the firebird of heavenly wind. Ji Tianqing explained the cause of the matter from beginning to end. After he finished speaking, Yunyao revealed an extremely shocked expression and asked in disbelief, "Junior sister Ji Ku is actually the daughter of the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Spirit Star Demon Empress?" This was too inconceivable. I didn't expect her background to be so bizarre. Ji Tianqing nodded and said seriously, "Ku's matter has been settled. I believe she will be able to get rid of the danger soon and improve her strength. I have already borrowed the Ice Dragon Hammer. Next, I have to act as soon as possible." Yunyao nodded slightly in agreement and said in a deep voice, "Tianqing, according to the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's investigation, the Duanmu clan's internal strife is getting more and more intense. The Shadow Palace's matter has not been settled yet. A few other forces are also taking advantage of the situation to add insult to injury. Duanmu Huang has been having a headache recently. However, the second elder and the third elder of the Duanmu clan have already started to act. They have sent out a large number of powerful cultivators to secretly investigate your whereabouts. They may assassinate you at any time." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile. "Humph. Since that is the case, I have to act faster. Let's see if they still have the energy to assassinate me after I destroy the Duanmu clan's herb garden." Yunyao took out a scroll from her interspatial ring and solemnly handed it to him. "Tianqing, this is the map of the herb garden drawn by the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's commanders recently. If you want to act faster, then get ready as soon as possible. I'll accompany you." Without waiting for her to finish, Ji Tianqing shook his head and refused. He sternly said, "Yao Yao, I can only act alone. You can't come with me. This matter is of great importance and I can't involve you. Otherwise, the Yun clan will be involved. At that time, my cooperation with your father will be affected and the imperial court will definitely intervene. I'm afraid there will be more unforeseen events." Yunyao looked worried. She held his wrist and said in a concerned tone, "But it's more dangerous for you to act alone. If something happens," Ji Tianqing held her slender hand and comforted her gently. "Yao Yao, don't worry about me. I'll be fine." After some persuasion, Yunyao agreed to not participate in the operation and stay in the emperor residence to wait for news. However, she was still worried and solemnly warned Ji Tianqing. An hour later, the two of them agreed on the operation plan. After everything was ready, Ji Tianqing left Yunyao Palace. It was noon and the sun was shining brightly in the sky. Ji Tianqing didn't return to Tianqing Palace. Instead, he left the emperor residence at lightning speed and rushed to the mango forest in the southeast of Central State. Now that he had the Ice Dragon Hammer, he couldn't wait to destroy the Duanmu clan's herb garden. To be safe, he acted alone with only the little black dragon and Qianyu by his side. After flying for more than 20 hours, he finally entered the depths of the mango forest on the evening of the second day and arrived near a herb garden. He hid in the clouds in the sky and looked down at the situation below. He was in the depths of the mango forest, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was the densest and most abundant. It was more than 1,000 miles away from Azurewood City. All around him was a boundless dark green forest that covered the undulating mountain ranges. 30 miles in front of Ji Tianqing, there was a basin surrounded by mountains that had a radius of 100 miles. The water and earth in that basin nourished spiritual energy and was extremely rich in the aura of green wood. It was the most suitable place for growing and cultivating medicinal herbs. There was no doubt that the Duanmu clan had turned that basin into a herb garden and cultivated an endless amount of spiritual herbs. Looking down from the sky, Ji Tianqing could clearly see that there was a huge five-colored wall of light above the basin that protected the entire herb garden. In the herb garden, countless square herb gardens were neatly arranged. They were filled with lush spiritual herbs that emitted a light green aura of wood. There were also several ancient and majestic palaces at the entrance to the herb garden. These were the residences of the guards and herbalists, as well as the storehouses where the herbs were stored. Teams of black-armored guards could be seen faintly in and around the herb garden. They were patrolling the area with swords and armors. Ji Tianqing observed silently and quickly came up with a plan in his heart. The Duanmu clan has built a total of 4 herb gardens in the mango forest. They are called the 100 Herb Garden, the Spirit Herb Garden, the Azure Wood Garden, and the Longevity Garden. The 4 herb gardens are scattered around Azure Wood City and are separated by over 1,000 miles. I'll start with the 100 Herb Garden. Even if the Duanmu clan hears the news and comes to help, it will take at least several hours. Brothers, I'm very sorry. I've been troubled by mundane affairs lately and have been under great pressure. Chapter 674. Ji Tianqing had seen the map Yun Yao gave him long ago, so he knew the layout of the medicine garden like the back of his hand. When night descended, the 100-flower garden fell into silence and darkness both inside and outside. Only the few palaces at the entrance of the 100-flower garden faintly revealed a bit of light. Ji Tianqing was like a ghost that streaked across the night sky and silently descended into the mountain forest at the side of the 100-flower garden. He held his breath and concentrated as he hid in the forest, then secretly used his spiritual sense to observe for a moment. After confirming that there was no one nearby, he started to break open the 100-flower garden's defensive formation. Amongst the Duanmu clans for medicine gardens, the Longevity Garden's medicinal herbs were the most precious, and its defense was the tightest as well. The Longevity Garden had a sole-rank defensive formation set up, and it was even guarded by the firestorm bird. The defensive strength of this 100-flower garden was comparatively weaker. It only had a high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation, 200 guards, and 4 guard commanders. Ji Tianqing silently moved through the forest, and after observing for an hour, he figured out the 100-flower garden's defensive formation. This was a high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation that utilized the 9 cauldrons universe, Azurewood Myriad Spirit, and Cloud Mist Concealment. Not only did this defensive formation possess a formidable defensive strength, it was also able to gather the Azurewood Spirit energy within 1,000 miles to irrigate the spirit herbs and flowers within the garden. With Ji Tianqing's attainments in the formation Dao, breaking open this high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation wasn't difficult. He borrowed the strength of the mountain and river seal, and only used an hour to break open a concealed gap in the defensive formation. However, just as he was about to pass through the gap and enter the formation, he suddenly stopped moving. His spiritual sense detected that in the mountain forest 400 meters to his left, there was a group of guards in black armor that were rushing towards his hiding place. That group of guards wasn't patrolling normally, and their speed was extremely swift and their aura was fierce and icy cold. Obviously, they'd noticed the unusual situation. Swoosh! 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 In the blink of an eye, 10 guards rushed to the scene like a bolt of lightning and stopped in the forest 100 meters away from Ji Tianqing. The strength of this group of guards had all attained the 8th and 9th level of the Origin Core stage, and their entire bodies emitted an icy cold and murderous aura. Obviously, they were elite soldiers. Their eyes were as sharp as an eagle's as they looked down and sized up their surroundings. They also released their spiritual senses to explore the surrounding situation. The leader of the guards waved his hand and ordered in a deep voice, "Just now, there were array formation energy fluctuations here. Everyone, spread out and search carefully. We must find out the reason." "Understood." The other 9 guards shouted in unison. Then, they spread out and released their spiritual senses to search. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, and his eyes became gloomy. He hid in the dark forest, not moving at all, not revealing the slightest bit of true essence fluctuation. Even so, there were still 2 guards walking towards his hiding place. No matter how well Ji Tianqing hid, when the 2 guards got close, they would still discover him and find a gap in the defensive formation. Thus, Ji Tianqing made up his mind. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Since you're courting death, then don't blame me for going on a killing spree. He silently muttered in his heart, then his figure flashed and floated out. He transformed into a black shadow that was like a ghost as he silently tore through the night sky and instantly arrived behind a guard, then he stretched out his hand like a bolt of lightning to grab towards the guard's throat. That guard had just noticed something was wrong and hadn't even reacted when his throat was grabbed by a large hand. Crack! An imperceptible sound of bones shattering sounded out. This guard's throat was instantly crushed, and dark red blood flowed out from his mouth as he died on the spot. Ji Tianqing threw the guard's corpse on the ground, then swiftly charged towards another guard like a phantom. That guard was staring at the ground with a fierce gaze, searching for clues. He still didn't know what had happened. He only felt his throat tighten, then his vision went black and he fell into eternal darkness. After Ji Tianqing easily killed 2 guards, his figure flashed and vanished, then he continued to assassinate the other few guards. In the next 100 breaths of time, one after another black-armored guards were attacked and quietly assassinated by Ji Tianqing. After 100 breaths of time, 7 out of 10 guards had been killed. The last 3 guards finally realized that something was wrong and let out a panicked and angry roar. The captain of the guards found the corpse in the forest and knew that they had been attacked. He immediately took out a signal arrow and was about to send a signal to inform the captain of the guards in the herb garden. Ji Tianqing didn't care about hiding his aura anymore. He rushed towards the captain of the guards as fast as a stream of light. He fiercely slapped the captain away, smashing the signal arrow into pieces. The captain of the guards was sent flying backwards while vomiting blood. His chest was deeply caved in, and his heart and internal organs had been shattered. He died on the spot. The other 2 guards saw the captain of the guards being killed with a single palm strike, and they were scared out of their wits. They turned around and fled, but they didn't forget to scream in horror. Ji Tianqing rushed up with a cold expression and killed one of the guards with a single palm strike. He then released a golden sword light and killed another guard from 100 meters away. The 10 guards were all killed, but it also made a lot of noise and woke up the guards in the herb garden. Suddenly, more than a dozen dazzling true essence lights lit up in the herb garden, and there was a burst of shouting. Ji Tianqing saw that the guards in the herb garden were alarmed, so he didn't delay any longer and didn't hide his aura. He passed through the gap in the array as fast as the wind and got into the herb garden. He rushed to the center of the herb garden as fast as lightning. The guards in the herb garden immediately rushed over like a swarm of bees, waving their sabers and swords as they shouted to kill. Someone broke into the herb garden. Stop him. Kill him. Those who break into the herb garden will be killed without mercy. When Ji Tianqing flew to the center of the herb garden, more than 30 guards also rushed over and surrounded him. Moreover, there were even more guards who were alerted from all directions and were rushing over as fast as lightning. Ji Tianqing stood in the night sky and looked down at the guards in the herb garden on the ground below. His eyes became cold and indifferent. There was a flash in his left palm, and the black dragon sword appeared out of thin air. Qian Yu also flew out of the 100 treasures brocade pouch, flapping his wings and floating in the air. Ji Tianqing said in a low voice, Qian Yu, do your best to destroy the herb garden. I will take care of these guards. No problem, I am the best at destroying things. Qian Yu quickly agreed and released a dazzling icy blue brilliance. It condensed into thousands of ice blades and frost swords and poured down on the herb garden below. The guards on the ground were shocked and quickly counterattacked, blocking the cold light from the blades and swords that fell from the sky. They wanted to protect the herb garden. However, Ji Tianqing had already pulled out the black dragon sword and fiercely slashed at the ground. Dragon soars from the 9th heaven. A 30-meter-long ice dragon appeared out of thin air and with an invincible power, it slashed at the ground below. Boom! In a deafening sound, more than a dozen guards who couldn't dodge in time were killed by the ice dragon. Chapter 675. The ground was shaking as cracks appeared all over the ground. The 20 or so guards who were lucky enough to survive were scared out of their wits as they let out terrified screams. A few patches of the herb garden were destroyed on the spot. The flowers and herbs that grew there were also turned into dregs by the violent qi. Qian Yu's swords and blades carried with them a bone-chilling coldness as they landed on the ground within a kilometer radius. Instantly, the ground within a kilometer radius turned into frozen soil. The surviving flowers and herbs were also frozen to death on the spot. Once the 100 flowers spirit herbs in the herb garden matured and were sold in the market, they could fetch at least 20 to 30,000 spirit stones. If the Duanmu clan made them into dawn, their value would be multiplied by a few times, reaching at least 100,000 spiritual stones. Ji Tianqing's interspatial ring contained all kinds of spiritual stones, dawn, and gems. They were only worth 40,000 to 50,000 spiritual stones. He destroyed tens of thousands of spiritual stones worth of herbs in one move, but he did not feel the slightest bit of heartache. Instead, he was even more excited. After all, those herbs belonged to the Duanmu clan. Moreover, killing and wantonly destruction would make people excited and restless. Ji Tianqing did not hesitate to swing his sword again. A blinding ray of light shot out and slashed at the fleeing guards. Water split. His entire body was filled with fighting spirit as he violently slashed out a giant ray of light that was hundreds of meters long. Instantly, the dark night sky was lit up. Sword chi filled the entire herb garden and created a violent hurricane. Boom! Following a loud explosion, a few more guards who could not escape in time were killed by the giant sword. A huge ravine that was thousands of meters long appeared on the ground, like an abyss. Dense cracks appeared on both sides of the gully. Dozens of patches of the herb garden were affected and turned into ruins. The violent shockwave swept across and crushed all the flowers and herbs on the ground into pieces, destroying them on the spot. Ji Tianqing let go of the black dragon sword and allowed it to transform back into its original form as it destroyed the herb garden with Qian Yu. Roar! The little black dragon let out a high-pitched dragon roar and immediately transformed into a 30-meter-long black dragon that danced in the sky. It and Qian Yu worked together to cast a spell and gathered all the spiritual qi in the herb garden to form a black cloud that covered the sky. Moving clouds and summoning rain, ice blade and frost sword. Within the rolling dark clouds, tens of thousands of icy blue water droplets condensed, transforming into countless ice blades and frost swords that poured down like a torrential downpour. Instantly, the ground was riddled with holes by the ice blades and frost swords. Numerous craters and cracks appeared. Millions of spiritual herbs and flowers were minced into pieces by the ice blades and frost swords. They were frozen into powder and scattered in the ruins. The little black dragon and Qian Yu were having a great time playing, and they were even using their arts to slowly move the dark clouds in the night sky. Wherever the dark clouds passed by, frost and swords would rain down, destroying every inch of land. Ji Tianqing didn't stop either. Standing in the night sky, he waved his palms and used the secret technique of the Tianqing 5 extremes. Large balls of earthy yellow light surged in his palms. He was communicating with the heavens and earth, controlling the earth elemental power within 100 miles. As he used the secret technique, the night sky around him constantly gathered dark yellow light of spirit qi. After 100 breaths of time, with him as the center, the night sky for 10 miles around him had become a dusky yellow zone. Finally, Ji Tianqing had accumulated the earth elemental power to the limit, reaching the peak of his control. With a roar like a great bell, he fiercely waved his palms and slammed them into the earth beneath his feet. Yellow sky thick earth, I grasp the universe. Heaven overturning earth, earth turns to stone. At that moment, the dusky yellow light in a 10-mile radius crashed into the earth like a mountain peak. Rumble. A thunderous boom that shook the highest heavens exploded, fiercely reverberating through the herb garden. The sound waves were as vigorous as thunder, causing the medicinal garden's defensive array to shake incessantly. As for the earth beneath his feet, it underwent a heaven-shaking transformation that left one flabbergasted. The dark brown earth began to ripple like the surface of the sea. The herb garden on the ground completely collapsed, and the earth mixed with hundreds of flowers and herbs sank into the ground. The earth from the ground surged up, covering everything on the ground. The earth converged into a dark brown wave of earth, crazily tumbling and rolling. With the earth beneath his feet as the center, it spread out in all directions. In a short 100 breaths of time, the earth for dozens of miles had been overturned. Thousands of herb gardens that cultivated herbs had been completely destroyed. Hundreds of millions of spirit flowers and herbs had been crushed into dregs, mixed with the earth, and buried deep underground. Then, the fertile earth condensed into a black stone that covered dozens of miles of land. Half an incense stick of time ago, the area of 50 to 60 miles had been a colorful and fragrant herb garden with hundreds of flowers in full bloom. But now, this area had become uneven, covered with cold black stones and cracks. It was like a broken desert, incomparably desolate, without a single blade of grass growing. The herb garden guards that had rushed over from all directions witnessed this scene with their own eyes. They were all shocked speechless. At this moment, in the night sky at the entrance of the herb garden, several beams of true essence light shot out like a stream of light. Within those beams of light, there was a figure of a powerful cultivator, emitting an overwhelming aura and murderous intent. They were extremely fast. After a short while, they had rushed to the center of the herb garden and surrounded Ji Tianqing. There were 4 powerful cultivators in total. All of them were at the 5th or 6th level of Sky Origin stage, wearing the same cyan robe. Without a doubt, these 4 powerful cultivators were the 4 leaders of the herb garden guards. They scattered in 4 directions, surrounding Ji Tianqing in the middle, keeping a distance of 1,000 meters from him. When they saw the changes on the ground, and saw that half of the herb garden had been destroyed, they were furious and roared in anger. "How dare you? How dare you destroy the herb garden? Bastard, no matter who you are, you will die a horrible death tonight. You damned little bastard, your death is not to be regretted. I will cut you into 1,000 pieces and put you to death." As the 4 leaders roared in anger, they drew out their swords and sabers. Their murderous intent shot up to the sky. Ji Tianqing was surrounded, but he was fearless. There was a flash of chilling light in his eyes. All the dogs of the Duanmu clan deserve to die. He shouted in a low voice. Immediately, he performed his ultimate sword skill and initiated an attack. Metal Slash. He activated all of his power and released a giant golden sword that was 100 meters long. He slashed at the leader of the eastern group of guards. The golden sword flew across the sky and shone brightly, lighting up an area of 10 miles. The incomparably violent sword chi and the sword intent that could destroy the world caused the expressions of the 4 commanders to turn solemn. Deep fear appeared in their eyes. The leader of the eastern group of guards quickly stepped back and formed a shield with all his might, trying to block the attack of the golden sword. However, the metal slash had locked onto his aura. After chasing him for 2,000 meters, it still hit him. Boom! You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.